Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is July the 17th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1443 on the ancient sun calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign living ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American Article 3 court action. We are the sovereign living justice in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am sovereign living justice Pauline Denise Ritchie, and my free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jury Bay. Both are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American descendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign, ancient empire state of Morocco, the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, Washington, ancient District 4 Columbia, the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the Article 3 Universal Moorish American Consular Court. We are also the World and Earth Court as well. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We are the all. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. First, I want to thank everybody who fasted this past week, the 3 days that we fasted. It was a very beautiful fast, and we have gotten some of the most beautiful energy from the fast and information from the fast. The downloads were coming so quickly, and the manifestations of our sovereign authority have been coming so quickly that it's just, it's amazing. It's interesting. So we want to go back right into our subject matter. Just one moment. Let's see. Okay. What we're going to do is go ahead and lock the meeting so that we can proceed without interruption. So on our last call, we talked about fiduciaries, and we basically laid the groundwork for some things that we're going to be sharing with you on this particular congressional assembly regarding our fiduciary responsibilities where the vast estate is concerned. We are, and when I say we, I mean all Moors, are already in place as the fiduciaries for our vast estate. And we actually have quite a bit of work to do. We have a lot to govern. There are no resources that we do not govern. We govern all resources at this time, earthwide and at all points in time. I want to thank the Moors who are here on the call, who are one with us. I don't feel like there's any difference between us. The Moors from UK territory and from Jamaica territory and from Trinidad and Tobago and French Guiana, South America, the Central America, those listening and those who will be seeing this video in the future. We are so grateful for you being here with us because we are one. And what we discuss on these calls has to do with all of us. We all have a responsibility with regard to governing the land. So with that being said, we pointed out some things, and we want to again lay the groundwork for the documentation that we're going to be presenting with regard to our fiduciary duties. Now, with regard to fiduciaries and estate and trust law, the fiduciary is actually the highest office when it comes to governing because all of the other offices, such as president or such as even the imperial divan offices, all of those officers are fiduciaries in their capacity. So the fiduciary is just our most basic foundational office that we all hold, regardless of our title. So with regard to fiduciaries, 31 United States Code 3128, proof of death to support payment. A death finding proclaimed by an office, an official or agency for the United States government, authorized by law to make the finding, is sufficient proof of death to allow credit in the accounts of a Federal Reserve Bank or accountable official for the Treasury in a case involving the transfer, the exchange, the reissue, redemption, or payment of obligations of the government, including obligations guaranteed by the government for which the Treasury is the transfer office. We are the original indigenous states united. Okay, we always have been and we always will be. Yes, I can do that. We always have been and we always will be the original of everything that anyone has ever claimed on earth. We were the original of whatever they claimed, whether they were claimed to be whether they were claiming to be European, whether they were claiming to be Moors, whether they were claiming to be Indians, whether they were claiming to be Africans. We were the originals of all of those. None of those, whether they were claiming to be Israel, the chosen people, you know, all of those, it does not matter what they were claiming. We were the first of all of that, all of those claims. We were here, we've been here since time immemorial into perpetuity, and we actually wrote our fiduciary duties into the ancient law that does not change. So even while we were in our sleep, we were still the fiduciaries, which is why they continue to need autographs from us. Okay? And when we decided that we were going to go ahead and govern our own vast estate, we said, okay, we're going to not give our signatures for anything else. And when we said that, you know, things picked up a little bit where, you know, signatures were being, they were being obtained under threat, duress, and coercion, which we are never under anything. So even in the face of what we might perceive as a threat or duress or coercion, we still don't have to give our signature. And we have proven that even by the demonstrations that we have done, that it doesn't matter who says what or what they're threatening or any of that. We still say, no, we're not giving anything that we don't want to give. So, and that's because our fiduciary duty is not anything that we give away. We're not delegating our authority to anyone. We have not done that, and we will not do that. So, because the estate is in our hands, okay? And so, sufficient proof of death to allow credit in the accounts. We're the original Federal Reserve. We're the original Treasury. We've always been the government. There is no other government on this earth besides the Moors, okay? And that's Moors, regardless of what we call ourselves, we're still the government. You know, some Moors feel comfortable calling themselves Indians or, you know, indigenous or, you know, other titles and labels, but we're still the government. So we're going to provide today proof of death to allow credit in our accounts, because we've always had the credit, we've always been the creditors, And so the reason that we're emphasizing our fiduciary document is so that we can go ahead and know what our responsibilities are. The Bankruptcy Act of 1933 and the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 state that the fiduciaries to the estate, the true living fiduciaries to the estate, must step forward, and we cannot wait for someone to give us permission to do that, because no one has the authority to give us permission to stand and govern our own vast estate. Only we could do that. So the Bankruptcy Act of 1933 and all other previous and subsequent bankruptcy actions, because there have been many different iterations of that, here, to which all are a party. So all citizens, so the Moors, we, in our true, rightful, and proper status, we have never been bankrupt. It is impossible for the Moors to be bankrupt. Impossible. The creditors can never be bankrupt. So when we pretended to be citizens, we were told that debt was ours and all of this. The debt has never been ours. It's always been the debt of corpses and corporations. Okay? We don't have debt. We don't have any debt. What we do is we assent to obligations, whatever our obligation is, and we get to say what our obligation is. No one else can do that. So it is, and this is very important, we stated this last time, we cannot state this enough because of what we're going to be presenting. It is the fiduciary's responsibility to take control of, or marshal. That's what marshaling means. When they talk about martial law, we are martial law. In other words, again, no one could give us permission to stand and be the fiduciaries. We actually had to stand and say, we know we're the fiduciaries for everything. And once we said it, then everyone else was free to speak. But they were oathed not to say who the real creditors, who the real fiduciaries, who the real executors, the ministers, the trustees. They were the beneficiaries. All others were oathed not to tell us. We actually had to stand and say it first, and when we stood and said it, everyone else would follow suit. It is the fiduciary's responsibility to take control of or marshal all assets comprising an estate or trust, especially when a fiduciary assumes office at the grantor's or testator's death. In the Biblioteliothèque and also in the ancient writings, it states very clearly that the power of life and death is in our tongue. Okay, that does not belong to anyone else. The power of life and death is not delegated to anyone. It belongs to the Moors, and so we want to be sure that we put that in place. And so we have the authority, yes, Empress, to create and officiate and state. And it doesn't matter, for example, when the United States Corporation Company, whenever they issue anything, even if it looks like it's talking about us, it can't possibly be talking about us because they don't have the authority to speak over us. If we see something that was issued by someone that is not us or by some corpse or corporation, if we happen to like what's being said, then we still can't say, you know, yes, that's true for us. We actually have to publish and state it for ourselves. So we can't even agree with them and say, oh yeah, what that corpse said about us is correct. No, we actually have to say it first, then it will be correct. So whatever they're saying, we actually have to speak it out ourselves and write it or speak it, either one. But our ancestors wrote things down. That's how we know that what we're saying is truth. And so, you know, even in the ancient times when Yeshua, who is one of our ancestors, was tempted, he said, "It is written, it is written, it is written." Kept saying, "It is written, it is written." And that was a hint to us to publish, to write things down, write the law, write our fiduciary duties down. Because even though we know that the subjects know who we are, and the subjects will say, yes, they're the fiduciaries of the estate. It's still not valid until we say it. So here, additionally, it says the prerequisite to immediate access of certain accounts is an executor or fiduciary producing a court affidavit of authorization. And again, no one has the authority to authorize us. We actually have to do that. And then we have to produce a death certificate, which we will do that today. Additionally, any person to whom the office of fiduciary or trustee of any estate is so transferred shall, for all of the purposes of this action, become and be deemed to be the trustee of the estate in lieu of the person from whom the office was transferred, who shall be deemed to have resigned that office. If you'll notice, those doing business that were previously doing business as, you know, the president and, you know, attorney general and all of that, despite what we see, they just, it seems like they just kept acting like they were governing. And the reason for that is because they can't stop until we say, okay, stop. They can't even resign those offices until we say, okay, we resign you. You are resigned. Back to subject status. Re-signed, back to subject status. So with that being the case, just one moment. I see that. Thank you, Nobility, who put that there. Thank you. Empress Rima, are you present? Just one moment. Let me just. I want to. Empress Rima, are you here? Okay, great. I just want to be sure that it's you. Can you speak, Empress Rima? If you'll star 6 and just unmute.
It's on, Empress. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I'm going to put the meeting back into lecture mode so we can continue. I just wanted to be sure that you With regard to the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, it provides that in Title I of the Emergency Banking Act, that retroactive approval of all banking functions, including any transactions, exchanges, transfers of credit between or payments by banking institutions, and export, hoarding, melting, or earmarking of gold or silver coin, it must be done by the fiduciary. Further, in Title II, it states that the comptroller of the currency appoint a fiduciary who shall take possession of the books, records, and assets of every description of such bank and take such action as may be necessary to conserve the assets of such bank pending further disposition of its business. It was our responsibility as currency controllers to appoint fiduciaries for the estate. That is our responsibility. No subject has that authority. We've not given that authority to anyone, nor do they have it, regardless of the acting that they were doing on the stage, the world stage. So if there is to be a fiduciary of our vast estate, we are to say, okay, these are the fiduciaries. Well, who are the fiduciaries? Who have we stated? All Moors who put that on the public record. A sovereign is the only one who can appoint and elect and select. We're the only ones who can do that. Anyone outside of the sovereigns is a fraud, trying to do anything like that. Okay? So, again, that's according to any of the acts that had to do with money, banking, currency, and states and estates. We'll point to the fiduciary or some title that has fiduciary responsibilities, such as an executor or a trustee or a minister of trust documents and trust law and estate law. Okay, judges are fiduciaries, bankers are fiduciaries. Those three are synonymous, and you'll see why we're putting much emphasis on the fact that only we can do that, and only we can say that for ourselves, and that there are no fiduciaries. See, had we not stood, which we were always going to do that, if we had decided to sleep another 100 years, then there still would not have been a rightful, lawful fiduciary for the estate. We had to wake up and say, okay, we all are, all of us. Each and every one of us is a sovereign monarch, each and every one of us. There is no hierarchy when it comes to the sovereigns. We are all one. We all have the same sovereign authority on the land. I'm saying that for a reason. Okay, it's important that we all know that not only is it our responsibility, we actually are obligated to govern the estate because no one else has the authority to do it. So during these times, where we were doing without, because we had not ministered to ourselves the estate. Because again, no one else has the authority to do it. We have to do it. Okay? And as we continue being the sovereign monarchs and fiduciaries for our vast estate, among many other titles that we have, pre-titles on top of, or not on top of, but under our titles of nobility, the lack and those that are doing without, you're going to see that just fade away. No one has to do without on our vast estate, no matter what their nationality or citizenship status is, when we are doing our job the way that we're supposed to do it. Okay? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship talks about our duties and what happens when the consul, which is a fiduciary duty, because consuls have financial responsibility. That's what a fiduciary does. A fiduciary has financial authority to move resources around on the estate and ensure that everyone gets what they need. Article 22 of the Treaty for Peace and Friendship says, if an American citizen shall die in our country, and no one shall appear, the consul shall take possession of his effects, and if there shall be no consul, the effects shall be deposited in the hands of a person worthy of trust, until the party shall appear who has a right to demand them. And again, it's saying if there's no consul, then no one has the right to demand any effects. No one has the right to demand deposits until the consuls appear, which we are here. All Moors are consuls and justices and fiduciaries, because each and every one of us has our own estate, very vast, unlimited estate, and then we all have the vast estate that we govern together, which is all of our estates coming together and being governed by all of us. So it says here, but when the heir or the fiduciary for the person deceased be present, and again, our all caps is a person. It's a natural living person. And then those persons that the United States Corporation Company was issuing was the dead person. Okay? And so we had to lien those dead persons and do court actions on those dead persons and do our fiduciary duty, which is to terminate all of their corporate commerce. Then the property shall be delivered to him without interruption. And who is him? Him is the living heir. It says, when a will shall appear, the property shall descend agreeable to that will as soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. That means that no one can authenticate the estate except us. We appear either in writing or in propria persona sui juris. I'm saying all of this for a reason. We're here. We have appeared on our vast estate. As soon as the consul shall declare the validity thereof. That means that no one in the office of the Secretary of State can actually declare the validity of anything unless they are us. Because, you know, we hear of people who have said that the quote-unquote Secretary of State has authenticated their... That's not even a Secretary of State unless it's a Moor. And the Moor knows that they are who they are on the land. Everyone else is a custodian in the office of. And custodians don't have the authority to authenticate anything. All they do is open the door, close the door. Make sure the office is clean and the office is occupied so that the office is not abandoned. And now that we are here, no office on this land is abandoned, and no office has a custodian in it. We're in those offices now, and we're going to prove that today. And we're going to continue to prove that. We've proven it in the past by doing court actions and freeing ourselves, and we're going to continue to do that. Now, where fiduciary duties are concerned, because we're absolutely punctuating fiduciary duties for a reason, because there's no title that the Moors hold that is not a fiduciary. Okay. Title 17 of the Code for Federal Regulation, Section 450.3 states, it talks about exemption for holdings subject to fiduciary standards. That just means anyone who's holding anything on this estate, they are holding it subject to whatever the fiduciaries say. And that those holdings are not taxed based on the fiduciary's appearance on the estate and the fiduciaries setting the standard on the estate. I'm saying all of this for a reason. It's very important that each Moor knows their sovereign authority. The secretary, it says here, and it's going to tell you, it's going to name some fiduciary offices here. It says, the secretary has determined that the rules, and the secretary is a fiduciary office as well. We just got finished stating that any secretary of state, that's the Moors. Okay, because again, this doesn't say custodian in the office of yet. It's going to mention the custodians, but custodians in this document are mentioned separate from the fiduciary, because it's just as we've been stating. Fiduciary is the Moors, and then there's custodians holding fiduciary, that were holding fiduciary property as custodians in the office of. It says the secretary has determined that the rules and standards of the comptroller of the currency, or in our case, currency controller, the board of governors of the Federal Reserve System, of which we are the original Federal Reserve System governors, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. We insure everything because no one else has the authority nor the vast resources to insure anything. It says, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, governing the holding of government securities in a fiduciary capacity. They're telling you that all of those offices are fiduciary offices. Comptroller of the Currency, Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, those are all fiduciary offices because it has everything to do with holdings, whether it be currency, whether it be property, no matter what it is. That is why we have placed the 40-something documents on the public record. Islam nobility, we'll go ahead. Islam, it's unlocked. Islam. Okay, thank you, Justice Akil, for putting that in the chat. And you can look these up so that you know, because there's more to section 450.3 than we have on the screen as regarding fiduciary duties. We set the standard. It says, accordingly, well, let me start that sentence from the beginning. The Secretary has determined that the rules and standards of the Comptroller of Currency, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation governing the holding of government securities in a fiduciary capacity by depository institutions subject thereto are adequate. So what they were saying was, well, the Moors are asleep. They're the real fiduciary, so we're just going to look at what the Comptroller of Currency and the Board of Governors and the custodians in the Office of Comptroller of Currency and the custodians in the Office of the Federal Reserve System and FDIC, we're going to look at what they're doing and say, okay, we think that that's adequate, but we won't really know until the Moors wake up and set the standard. Okay. Accordingly, such depository institutions are exempt from this part with respect to their holdings of government securities in a fiduciary capacity and their holdings of government securities in a custodial capacity. So custodians are not fiduciaries. That's why they could not render anything, okay? They couldn't give us the things that we have. They couldn't give us that stuff. They had to piecemeal, and many more, most of us were doing without, okay? Because we didn't know, okay? So, let's see, okay. Islam. Islam. Okay. Thank you, Empress. So The holding of our resources in a custodial capacity is what has been happening. And we cannot call them judges and things like that. That's actually against the most ancient of laws. It's in the Biblioheliothek, and it's in all the ancient writings that we, the sovereigns, are not to ever give a title to. It's even in the Constitution. We are never to give titles to custodians. Never. You don't give them a title of any kind that has any fiduciary responsibility, such as judge or magistrate or officer or, you know, sheriff, or you can't even call them a waiter. They're custodians in the office of waiters. We can't give them any titles or any authority, because even a waiter at a restaurant takes money. Okay? And it's only money when we give them real money. So even that, custodians don't handle funds. That is why the fiat had to be passed around while we were asleep. They were giving examples of what we do with money, real money. They were giving examples. They were saying, this is not real money. You know, fiat is not real money, but we're just showing you all the things you can do with it, because they're actors. It says, such institutions have adopted policies and procedures that would apply to such custodial holdings all the requirements imposed by its appropriate regulatory agency that are applicable to government securities held in a fiduciary capacity. And such custodial holdings are subject to an examination by the appropriate regulatory agency for compliance with such fiduciary requirements. We, the fiduciaries, can examine any records, any monuments, any documents, if there's nothing on our land we cannot examine. Anything that has to do with the crown, anything that has to do with the military, anything that has to do with treasury, anything that has to do with any of that. There is nothing that is off limits for us, the sovereign fiduciaries, to examine and look at and then regulate as the fiduciaries. That is why the fiduciary document has taken such prominence in what we do. Because no comptroller of currency, no office of board of governors of a Federal Reserve System, and no insurance companies can do anything without the fiduciaries setting the standard and saying this is how this should be done. It says number 2B says the secretary expects that each appropriate regulatory agency will notify the department if it materially revises its rules and standards governing the holding of government securities in a fiduciary capacity. So the secretary is always the Moors. It's never been anyone that was doing business as Secretary of State. That's why all of that stuff had to be liened. We had to place a lien on DBAs because we had not issued the DBAs. It's only when we issue DBAs that any DBAs are even valid, because they have to be properly regulated by true fiduciaries, competent fiduciaries. And fiduciaries regulate by way of our courts. All fiduciaries are judges. Why are we pointing this out? We are pointing this out because it is important that as we move forth in governing our vast estate, that we know who we are, why we're able to do the things that we're able to do, and how no matter what corpses and foreigners and all of that, no matter what they say, it's not valid until we say what's valid, because they don't have the authority to regulate anything. And foreigners means custodians in the office of. No matter where we are on our vast estate, custodians do not have the authority to regulate anything. And that's why things seem like it's been so haywire and chaotic on the land. And really not on the land, but in that corporate fiction. That's where all the chaos exists, is in that corporate setup. But only when the Moors institute does order return. Now, I'm not sure if you all have had the chance to look and see just briefly what's happening at Sri Lanka territory. That's happening at Sri Lanka territory, and that was happening at Beijing territory, Hong Kong territory, anywhere, Yemen territory, Ukraine territory, where you're seeing people rushing and running and rioting, and Afghanistan territory. The things that are happening at those territories are the reason why it's important for us to continue to stand. Justice Konsul, you put in the chat, the lawyers in the UK are supposed to be on strike and many of the courts are shutting down, I was told today. That's what he says. Listen, you all are governing there. They don't have the authority to do anything. So if they want to act out a strike in order to move out of your way, then Islam. If they want to do that, if that's how they want to get out of the way, we don't, them getting out of the way, however they want to act that out, is fine with us. We just know that they must do it. We just know that stepping out of the way is necessary, because our estate does not have two heads, it has one. And that's us. And we're going to prove that today too. So now, here in this first USC code, 31 USC 3128, proof of death to support payment. As you know, all of the work that we have been doing has been in order to ensure that proper payment to the Moors is done so that we can govern and have the resources we need to do that. Okay. The printing of Delarium, I cannot, please look at Sri Lanka, Moors. Look at Libya. Look at Yemen. Look at Pakistan, look at Iran, look at France, look at those lands and see that it is of the uttermost urgency that all Moors print out Delarium, please. Because the problem that they're having is that the supply chains have broken down, and the main supply is, this is the real issue. The people on those lands cannot see that they are the resource and that they are the source of all resources, and they can't see that they're the authority. And that they should always have their own national currencies. They don't see that, so that when shelves are empty at the store, they're running to those places where those that were previously acting as if they were government, they've been running to their houses, quote unquote, and burning the houses down and breaking in and carrying on to where those that were acting as government had to flee. Because the people are looking at them as if they have something to give them when they don't. The ones that were doing business in D.C., the fake D.C., the corporate D.C., have nothing to give us. They don't have anything to give us. Everything already belongs to us. What are they going to give us? They don't own anything. They don't own anything. And if they don't own anything, and since they don't own anything, there is no fiduciary responsibility or obligation for them. They're not obligated to give us anything. That's why there was such a scarcity even with the fake fiat. They're not obligated to give us anything because they already know we have not just the option to print our own money. We are obligated to our heirs and those on the land to print our own money. We are the only ones who can print constitutional money. So we're going to add some regulation to that today because it's important that as we're looking at the emergency banking laws that we have put in place and the bankruptcy laws that we put in place in order to ensure that the bankrupt United States corporation companies, that the things that they have been claiming to govern are properly regulated. We had to put law in place. We put, and thankfully our ancestors and our prophets and all of our, the Moors that were active back since time immemorial put things on the public record that we could look at and then proclaim and declare and give decrees and edicts and put law in place to make and enforce law. The Emergency Banking Act talks about taking possession of books and records and assets of every description of such bank. Taking possession, does that mean that someone actually has to grant you possession? No. They don't have the authority because they're really just standing there with the stuff. They were standing there with the stuff behind them. And because of the spells that had been cast, we were thinking, well, they're standing there stopping us. No, they're not. With the right words, they will move, just like Justice Consul is seeing in the UK territory. They're saying they're on strike. No, they're moving out of the way because Justice Consul and them have spoken the right words. We've spoken the right words here. Office of Prime Minister and Office of President stepped down at Sri Lanka. Yes, because the people are speaking the right words. See, we don't have to pick up guns because the pen is always going to be mightier than the sword. Always. And in reality, the sword and the pen are the same. And sword is the word with, yes, with the S on, the S can be at the beginning or the end. But see, we're the Alpha and the Omega, so we get to determine where that S goes. Our words are the sword. The Biblioheliotheque talks about us coming with a sword in our mouths. In our mouths. That's why life and death has to do with what we say and what we write and how we write it. Having said that, and with these, the USC code talking about sufficient proof of death, Morris, I want to ask you, and we'll open the table. I think we probably should be able to do that with a little, or if we're interrupted, we'll just do what we normally do, which is stop the interruption. You can star 6 to respond. Have we, or have any of you, I would love to hear, rendered a death certificate in order to get access to the credits and the payments and the accounts and all. I see Empress Rose, thank you. She put no in the chat. And Empress Rama says no. I had not done that either until recently. Justice Morpheus says no. Empress Denise says no. The justices say no. Empress Chitali says no. So, Islam? Islam, had you done that, Emperor Tonus?
Well, let's put it this way: when the currency first came out, I know people who own shops, and so what I did was I left it with them, so to speak, because instead of trying to convince them that because they're part of the system. So what I did was I said, okay, if the dollar crashes, contact me about this, and I left them a certain amount of Delarium. And there are 4 different store owners so far. One's a shoe store owner, one's a...
Can you speak up just a little louder, Emperor, because they cannot hear you. They're saying they can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, basically I left Delarium with some store owners. And this was when you first sent it out to us. And I've been building, actually, too. So, I mean, over the last 6 months, I've handed it out to like 4 different store owners. And basically, since they weren't convinced, I didn't try to convince them of the, I just told them that this is our, they know that I'm a Moorish, so I said, okay, this is going to be our currency. We're working on making our currency available. So, I haven't gotten anything from it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I didn't tell them the procedure on how to cash it either.
Yes.
So they have to contact me. So, but I have done that, you know, and I've let people know that it's available, and I've handed it to Moors.
Yes.
Or passed it off to Moors.
Justice Tonus, I am just so grateful for what you just said, because we had to give them due process. Due process is notification before it's due. So what you were doing was absolutely what your court should have been doing, which is notifying them that this is what's coming.
Wow.
We've been saying to do that more.
Why aren't you out there doing that, Pauline? Why aren't you out there doing that?
Send the Delarium out. We've been saying that. Send the Delarium out so that they know beforehand. Send it out with your affidavit. Send it. We've been saying that.
Also, I want to thank you for all the work you've been doing, Empress. And there's another Moor here named Roscoe Duncan. He's been putting liens and putting Delarium with the liens, too.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
It's going out. Beautiful.
Justice Roscoe, listen, you all are doing exactly what you should have been doing, because it's time now. And Sri Lanka gave us an indicator that, and Sri Lanka also gave the custodians an indicator too. And the thing is, those in those custodial positions, I will have to say I appreciate them, because they are being, their lives are being, you know, there are people who are threatening them and all of that. And if we had not done what we've done, you know, then our land would be, it would be out of order. It'd be all out of control, you know. Justice Morpheus, what Justice Tonus was saying, because Justice Morpheus could not hear you. There were some who could not hear you, Justice Tonus. He was saying that Justice Tonus has been sending out the Delarium. He took it to about 4 stores and gave it to them and told them to hold it, to keep it, and then when the time comes, that they'll be able to use it. Okay. And that is absolutely what we should have been doing and what we should be doing now. When I saw what was happening in Sri Lanka and how the people cannot get their hands on any money.
Those stores have already used it their ass with.
They can't. They have
no. They wipe their ass with
they don't have a way to get any money. So they're only the only thing they have left is they went to the quote unquote palace or the presidential house, quote unquote, and went in and just went into their refrigerators and went all through the domicile and things like that, while the one that was doing business as president hopped on a aircraft and got on out of there because they were coming for his neck. They were coming to do them harm. And we don't want to see harm come to anyone, so we have to do what we're doing right now. So when I thought about Delarium and about how every Moor has access to Delarium, someone sent something in the, and hopefully it's not showing. Sometimes my chat will show on the screen, and I don't mind it showing, but sometimes more inbox questions. And so if you want Delarium, because you don't, more as sovereigns, we get to proclaim what we have and what we want. Anyone wanting Delarium, we can email Delarium to you.
Hey, Angel Bay, why don't you take some Delarium to the car dealer?
So any more is wanting Delarium. If you'll put your email in the chat, someone, yes, Islam.
I've been booted out of the call. Could you,
sure.
I can get back in because I actually need.
It's unlocked mobility.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Empress Rima. Empress Rima will send Delarium to those who need it. Let's see. It is going to be of the utmost importance that all Moors have Delarium. I'm just saying, please look at what has happened in all the other places. See, the corporates have tried to get quote unquote stimulus checks out to everyone, but there's an interruption in the system and they can't get it out. So even if they wanted to do the right thing, they can't do it. Okay, Empress Rima, there's a couple of emails in the chat. If you would,
yes. My pleasure.
And then those who see this video, if you want Delarium, if you'll just email thegovernment@gmail.com, and I'll put that on the screen so that you can get Delarium emailed to you. Here, let me see if I can get that. Just 1 moment. Let me put it on the screen, the email. You're going to need Delarium. Please know that you're going to need it over the next, as these things continue to develop.
Empress, right? Just a moment. Regarding the Delarium, so I had the paper that was suggested. You know, we had specific paper that was suggested that we used to print out the Delarium. I don't have that in my possession. So is it a suggestion that I need to hold off to print Delarium because the paper that I will be using will not be the quality paper?
Nope, you don't have to hold off. You can go ahead and print it on whatever it is that you deem appropriate for you. And it can even be plain paper. It can be parchment paper. It can be whatever paper you choose to print Delarium on. We are encouraging everyone to please, 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 please go ahead and get Delarium printed out, please, because you're going to need it. I'm just saying, you're going to need it. Just one moment. Just one moment. Islam. So the reason that it's important that as many, get it into the hands of as many, and then any of your family members just hold it for them. They may not think that it's usable.
Pauline,
right
why
now.
don't you use it yourself?
They don't
record a demonstration of your.
They may feel like it's not usable, but they will see very shortly that it is usable.
We want to see you, Pauline. Go buy a car with.
Just one moment, Morris. It's going to be very, very important that we do that. That the Morris, please print it out, please, as soon as possible, and get as much of it printed out as you feel necessary. As you feel that you deem necessary. So now we want to show you what has transpired since just in the last few days, weeks, months, particularly since the new year, which was March 21st for us. Here. We have in our possession a death certificate that has made it very clear that the United States Corporation Company is a dead entity. Now again, we're the original United States. We're living, but there is a dead one. So let's just take a look at some of what we have. And these documents that I'm showing you will be under this video on YouTube at Light to Jure Bay channel. This is a death certificate. The deceased person's information, the name of the deceased is United States Corporation Company in those brackets. And all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof. The date of, and that includes all caps that they were issuing, because they don't have the authority to issue all caps. We are the capitalists who have the authority to issue capital letters. Okay? They don't have the authority to do that. Justice, there's something in the inbox regarding maintaining certain standards for Delarium paper. Yes, maintain standards for the Delarium paper. However, we want to make sure that everyone knows that Delarium is available to everyone, and we're not going to limit that to only people who can access certain types of paper. Because in reality, it was the autographs that they wanted in the first place. But we needed to come together and decide as a nation and as the state that this is going to be our currency that is honored by everyone. We needed to do that. And that's why the Delarium looks the way it looks. And we'll show you how it's going to operate too, because we just, the ancestors have given us everything that we need in order to govern the vast estate and in order to make sure that the custodians honor Delarium and merchant cards and everything else. And those that are in those, that were in those custodial offices, January 6th of 2020, when they acted out a bunch of, a bunch of foreigners going into the capital, quote unquote, and that word is capital for a reason. When they acted that out, what they were saying is, there's no one here. They showed you specifically the offices with no one in them. That was the purpose of that, is to say, even if there were people in there, those that ran in there don't respect any of them. So they did all the disrespectful desecration of that place, putting their feet up on the desk, urinating, and doing what, what they felt was deserved in there. We don't condone that type of behavior on our land. Let's just make that clear. We don't condone it, nor do we participate in it. But I know they wanted to make their point, so their point, we just looked and noticed. Okay. This cause of death, we went ahead, and again, when you see the custodian, the former custodian Joe Biden, when you see anything that has to do with him, that has to do with the Moors, he does not, the former one does not own a name. We own the name. Because according to our fiduciary duties, they have passed away. So as fiduciaries, we're obligated to step up and start doing things on our land with regard to everything that has to do with us. And the only reason that the name is there is because of our fiduciary document, and also there are some subjects on the land who will only take their instructions from them simply because they're not in the same jurisdiction as we are. We generally do not speak directly to the common citizens. We speak to the ones, the head custodians, and we say, hey, head custodian, notify everybody that this is happening. And we use our courts to do that. You Moors, us Moors, as sovereign monarchs, there's no reason for us to speak directly to each and every custodian specifically. Because notice to agent is notice to principal is notice to agent. They're supposed to tell each other. It's just like when a judge, thank you, Justice Rima, when a quote unquote judge sends out something and says, this is the law, everybody has to do whatever. They don't come to each one's door and knock on the door and say, hey, did you know this is the law now? Hey, did you know? No, they don't. They speak out on the public record, and then it's the responsibility of whoever it is that's in charge to tell everybody. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. So we have taken trademark and patent authority over all letters, all ink, and everything. So anything that's out there in the public domain belongs to the Moors. Always has and always will. And all we're doing with regard to names of custodians and former custodians is the same thing that they were doing when they would take the corpse names that they invented and created. They didn't originate them, they just subrogated and copied. And they took them all around the earth and just sold everything and all of that. And created all of these accounts and all of that. Okay, we are the state, so now we do that. Okay, and that is why you see former custodian Joe Biden's name on here. And there is no office that is associated with this name. However, the custodians will know exactly what this is and why this is here. Okay, and then it has gone through the King County Superior Court, of which we are the head magistrate there. So we give out all of the laws and the rules. And when I say we, I mean all of us. So Moors, you need to have something that looks exactly like this in your documentation. And you don't need to, but if you want to, you can. All of the documents that I'm about to show you, all Moors have the authority to have these documents, and some of them are going to be necessary where Delarium is concerned. Okay? And we'll show you why in just a moment as we go through the documents. So this is the second document here, United States Fiduciary Appointment. It says to all office holders. Office holders are custodians in the office of. This is for their benefit, not our benefit, it's for their benefit, so that they will know what's going, that we have taken fiduciary possession and we are in control of all of our own resources. It says, to all office holders, this letter does serve as notification and affirmation that the Honorable Chief Justice, and you can put your appellation there, Pauline Denise Ritchie has accepted, and remember Moors, accepted for value, that's what this is, has accepted the appointment and titles of President and Fiduciary Officer for the United States in accordance with the Office of the President of the United States, the Office of the Treasury, the Constitution for the United States, 1789 and 1791, the Bankruptcy Act of 1933, the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, House Resolution 192 of 1933, U.S. Department of Justice Tax Non-Obligated Law, AA 222141, for all commerce, Supreme Court rulings and opinions, and all other applicable federal and state laws. It is the fiduciary's responsibility to take control of, marshal, all assets comprising an estate or trust, especially when a fiduciary assumes office at the grantor's or testator's death. And we've already shown the death certificate, which will accompany these documents. It says further, the prerequisite to immediate access of certain accounts is the fiduciary providing a court affidavit of authorization and producing a death certificate. Additionally, any person to whom the office of fiduciary of any state is so transferred shall, for all the purposes of this action, become and are deemed to be the trustee for the state in lieu of the person from whom the office was transferred, who shall be deemed to have resigned that office. The bearer of this letter is entitled to 100% immediate reimbursement or discharge on all commercial obligations and transactions with national identification bearing the United States Department of State Tax Non-Obligated Public Law AA 222141 as stated by the original indigenous Moorish American state. All financial instruments presented by the original indigenous American people that are properly autographed with 2 signatures, one of which shall be from the Office of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, and the other autographed from the bearer of this letter, which would be the Moors, shall be honored in accordance with the state laws and the power and authority vested in the office of the President and the office of the Treasury for the United States. All authorities, duties, responsibilities, and benefits for the office of the President are hereby transferred. It has been an honor to serve. Sincerely, Joe R. Biden, Jr. And then we had to authenticate this. So anyone that was pretending to be in that office couldn't even resign until we said, okay, you're done. And then we had to authenticate that. And again, as we go through these documents, you'll see and know that they didn't have the authority to do anything. We had to do it all. And we had to do so competently. Okay? So let's continue with the documentation. I believe this is the same. Yeah, that's the same document twice. This one is the Office of the Treasury. It says the same thing, that this letter shall serve as notification and affirmation that Chief Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie accepts the appointment and titles of Treasurer and Fiduciary Officer for the United States in accordance with, and then it states the laws and all of that. And it is signed by Janet L. Yellen, Office of the Treasury. Janet L. Yellen is not a treasurer, is not a secretary of the Treasury or anything like that. Janet L. Yellen is a custodian in the office of, and not even in the office of anymore, because as this states at the end, the last sentence in this document says, it has been an honor to serve. That means that there's no further service by the custodian in the office of Janet Yellen. That is why it's so important, Morris, and we're putting this on the public record right now as a court action. We are accepting their resignations. We are accepting our fiduciary responsibilities and obligations, and in order for that to happen, we actually had to present the Federal Reserve notes. They're not debt notes. Now, I want to make this really clear with regard to Delarium. Any Delarium that you've printed qualifies. But what we have to do is, Morris, and you all have the authority to do this, the same way that they did when we were asleep. They would sign what we thought was our names to things and then go about using that to get whatever it is that they needed to get. All we did was say, oh, our prophet said they were going to teach us how to govern. Okay, so now we see what they did, so now we're doing the same thing. We're saying, okay, these are our subjects here. And the subjects can't do anything without our permission, so we're permitting according to what we say. And more, we're the Treasury, we're the Treasurer, we're the Secretary of the Treasury, we're the President. We have the authority to accept Delarium. They don't even have the authority to accept it unless we say, okay. We actually have to be in the offices in order to accept the Delarium. Corporations cannot own or hold or handle gold. So they put all of their stuff on paper and called it gold. Gold stocks and bonds, etc. So you can take, this is what we've done, and we'll show you at the end of this. Yes, Empress Rima, this is all, everyone's resignation is on the desk of the Moors right now. Justice Consul, we got something for you. You know, we thought about you all this whole time. We have, yes, you can do all of that. Yes, please do that. But we have something we thought about you. We would, because you all are sitting right in the midst of all of that at UK territory. So we thought about all of that, and we put some, you know, we had to put some documentation in place because this is for everyone. Okay, Justice Consul, I'm so glad that you and the Moors there are in charge of the processes, because we know that you've put all the red documents on the public record, which is necessary so that we can move on to these steps here. Here, this is the resignation and us standing, and we have all of this is already filed and recorded properly with our court first, and then with everyone else. So now we thought about the Moors who have been incarcerated. So one of the first documents, because really I was trying to hurry and look through the initial documents in order to get to this document. Office of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. As we know, the Department of Justice issues anything that has to do with the Bureau of Prisons. So, Moors, you have the authority. You have the authority. Where our brothers and sisters are concerned. This is Federal Bureau of Prisons fiduciary appointment, because as you know, Moors, though they've been holding Moors under a trust. We needed to resign them and move them out of the way and put them back in subject status, remove them from office, from custodialship of the offices, and then stand and say, okay, we got this. So they are retired. It says the exact same thing as the previous document, but we'll go ahead and read this one. This letter serves as notification and affirmation that the Moors, this one says Chief Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie, but all Moors, accepts the appointment and titles of fiduciary officer and director for the Federal Bureau of Prisons in accordance with United States law, the Constitution for the United States 1789 and 1791, the Bankruptcy Act of 1933, the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, House Resolution 192 of 1933, U.S. Department of Justice Tax Non-Obligated Public Law AA 222141 for all commerce, Supreme Court rulings and opinions, and all other applicable federal and state laws. The bearer of this letter is entitled to 100% immediate discharge of all commercial obligations and transactions with national identification bearing the United States Department of State Tax Non-Obligated Public Law number AA 222141. So Moors, make sure that that number is on your ID cards. As stated by the original indigenous Moorish American state. And the original indigenous Moorish American state is any Moorish state. It is the fiduciary's responsibility to take control of and marshal all assets comprising an estate or trust, especially when a fiduciary assumes office at the grantor's or testator's death. The prerequisite to immediate access of certain accounts is the fiduciary providing a court affidavit of authorization and producing a death certificate. Additionally, any person to whom the office of fiduciary of any state is so transferred shall, for all the purposes of this action, become and are deemed to be the trustee for the state in lieu of the person from whom the office was transferred, who shall be deemed to have resigned that office. All financial instruments presented by the original indigenous American people that are properly autographed with 2 signatures, 1 signature from the Office of the Treasury, Janet Yellen, and Moores, you have the authority to go ahead and write that on your Delarium. Because again, on our fiduciary documents that we put on the record originally, it says that all letters and all numbers and all punctuation and all, it doesn't matter what color, what ink, we are in complete authority and control of it. So what did they do? They said, okay, you all have it. We'll put all this stuff on the public record and it's yours. So the other autograph, see, Janet Yellen has a signature, and then we have an autograph. The other autograph from the bearer of this letter. So if you're carrying even these letters with my appellation on them, you can use these. For those who may not feel comfortable printing these for yourself, you can use the ones that are here and present them with your Delarium. Additionally, any person to whom the office of fiduciary of any state is so transferred shall, we read that for all intents and purposes, all financial instruments presented by the original indigenous American people that are properly autographed with 2 signatures, 1 from the Office of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. The other autograph from the bearer of this letter shall be honored in accordance with the stated laws and the power and authority vested in the Office of the Director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. All authorities, duties, responsibilities, and benefits for the Federal Bureau of Prisons Director are hereby transferred. Additionally, a determination has been made, and this is important, Moores. Additionally, a determination has been made by the federal government that the Federal Bureau of Prisons needs additional funds to operate. Therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act 1933, Title III, the Federal Bureau of Prisons does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in the state bank, which is our bank, or trust company, which is ours, and shall discharge all obligations secured by such stock as collateral. The Federal Reserve has issued emergency currency, which is the Delarium, which shall be referred to as Federal Reserve Bank notes, backed by the commercial capacity of any assets of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. This action is effective at all United States Department of Justice federal prisons immediately. That's according to Title V. It has been an honor to serve, and this is the autograph, or the signature rather, of Merrick Garland, who was the custodian in the Office of the Attorney General, United States Department of Justice. So these documents, you can print them off. They're already quote unquote approved and validated by the proper authorities, and we accept their resignation. So for the Moors that are incarcerated, this document, I was more excited about this one than any of the others, because we can provide the assistance that is needed. And any Moors, because you don't have to be any specific Moor to provide that assistance, all Moors are obligated to provide assistance for the Moors that are incarcerated. They need to come out of there, but we needed to do this first and provide the resources so that when they come out, they're not coming out and living under a bridge. They're going to need domiciles, conveyances, money, resources to get what they need, and then they need to be able to do that unencumbered. And then this is, this one is, I'll just read the first sentence. This letter serves as notification and affirmation that Chief Justice All Moores, Pauline Denise Ritchie, accepts the appointment and title of fiduciary officer and Attorney General for the United States Justice Department in accordance with, and then it goes on and says the same thing. The last paragraph states it, that a determination has been made by the federal government, which is us, all Moors. We've determined that they're insolvent. And we as the Federal Reserve need to issue money. That's what Delarium is. It's emergency currency so that we can get the things we need. This one is also autographed by Merrick Garland, and it is authenticated by us. The next document is from the Office of the Crown, and it is to all Crown, British Empire, and Commonwealth office holders. Office holder is a custodian in the office of. Sovereign, Crown, and fiduciary appointment. All Moors. This is for all Moors. You need, feel free, because you have the authority to print these for yourself and put your sovereign ancient appellation in these documents. You are the sovereign monarchs. We all are. And that's, I'll just say this, a beautiful hint. Justice Consul, I was thinking about you all when this came up. A beautiful hint that we all are the monarchs is the monarch butterfly. Whenever you see the monarch butterfly, they're never by themselves. They're always with just a bunch of other monarch butterflies, beautifully just existing together in harmony. That is a hint, a natural hint to us that we do this together. So this one says the same thing. Why? Because a determination has been made by the government and the Parliament that the Commonwealth of Nations needs additional funds to operate. Therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, Title III, the Commonwealth does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in the state bank or trust company and shall hereby make loans and discharge obligations secured by such stock as collateral. And when we say make loans, please, Moors, we've talked about this before, please take a moment, get an old dictionary and look up the term loan. That term only started coming into the dictionaries in the 1800s, that's number one. And number two, initially it meant a gift from a sovereign. Okay. And so the Bank of England has issued emergency currency by way of the Federal Reserve, which shall be referred to as Federal Reserve Bank Notes, because we're the bank, backed by the commercial capacity of any and all assets of the Crown. This action is effective at all realms and jurisdictions immediately, and that's Title V. It has been an honor to serve Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, custodian in the office of the Crown, who is no longer in the office of the Crown. We are the Crown. And King County Superior Court, the stamp is here. And then we had to authenticate her resignation. This one is from the offices of the Pope and the Vatican. To all papal and Vatican office holders regarding sovereign, papal, and fiduciary appointment. And we know who the popes are. Remember, Moors, we did the Unum Sanctum document where everyone is under the authority. Everyone is under the authority of the Roman Pontiff. We are the original Roman Pontiff, all of us. So when people talk about Rome, and some of them talk about how, oh, Rome was just bad. We had some times where we did some things more in our past. And that's what the sleep period was about, was making sure that once we woke up, We had to put ourselves in check, by the way. Okay? No one else could do that. We had to do it. And when we put ourselves in check, guess what? In check we became. Okay? Here, I'm going to stop that one and put this one here. Okay? Just one moment. Okay. So, okay, I want to be sure that we that this the cameras are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, so offices of the Pope and the Vatican. A determination has been made by the government and the Holy See, and we've talked about who the real Holy See is, Morris, that the Vatican needs additional funds to operate. Therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, Title III, the Vatican does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in the state bank or trust company and shall hereby make loans and discharge obligations secured by such stock as collateral. The Vatican Bank, Instituto per l'Opera di Religione, has issued emergency currency by way of the Federal Reserve, because that's where they were getting everything from anyway, which shall be referred to as Federal Reserve bank notes, not debt notes, bank notes, backed by the commercial capacity of any assets of the Vatican. This, and we know the Vatican is ancient Timbuktu, so we have the authority to say and do everything that has to do with that. This action is effective at earth immediately. Title V. It has been an honor to serve sincerely Franciscus, which is Jorge Mario Bergoglio, who was previously doing custodial duties as in the office of Pope Francis. Yes, we did need a nap. Yes, Islam, to the things that are showing in the chat, Islam indeed. So let's continue. This one is for office of the governor here at Washington. And more at your territories, it's going to be imperative and important that you make law and regulate and enforce law by doing the same things, okay? And it says the same thing. Chief Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie, but of course your appellation can go there, accepts the appointment and titles of fiduciary officer and governor for Washington in accordance with, and then we quote the laws here, and then it says a determination has been made by the federal government that Washington needs additional funds to operate. Therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act 1933, Washington, in all capital letters, does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in the state bank or trust company. And it has been an honor to serve. Sincerely, J. Inslee, who was previously the custodian in the office of governor at Washington. And he was office of governor, state of Washington, previously pretending to be that. Here, King County, there was a custodian in the office of King County Executive. We are the fiduciary. We are King County Executive and Chief Fiduciary Officer for King County. And that's going to cover sheriffs and peace officers and property and all of that has to do with our sovereign authority here. Dow Constantine, Office of the King County Executive He was previously the custodian. He says here, it has been an honor to serve. Okay. And I believe that one came up twice. King County Superior Court. And again, the custodians in the that were previously in the office of are just notifying everyone. To all King County Superior Court office holders, and that means anyone that was custodian in the office of judges, bailiffs, corrections officers, policy enforcers, police actually, law enforcement, all who were in the offices of. This is notification. That the Moors accept the appointment and titles of head magistrate according to Chapter 29, Magistrate and Subject of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, as well. And we didn't put, that document is not referenced here simply because these reference the documents and the laws that have to do with the custodians, such as the Constitution, the Bankruptcy Acts, House Resolution 192, U.S. Department of Justice, Non-Obligated Public Law, AA 222141, etc. And then it says a determination has been made by the federal government. And the federal government there is in all lowercase letters because it's talking about us, that King County Superior Court needs additional funds to operate because they were all previously operating from a place of bankruptcy. So they just kept using fictitious money, fictitious fiat rather. So we needed to put an end to that because that cannot continue. And even the subjects are becoming very restless with regard to this, wanting to ensure that, are the Moors going to wake up? Are the Moors going to wake up? Well, you know, yes, they were oath not to tell us anything, but we know who we are. Okay, and here the signature of Patrick Oishi, who was the custodian in the office of head magistrate at King County Superior Court. Chase Bank, same thing. Jamie Dimon was the custodian in the office of the president of Chase Bank. The first sentence here, this letter serves as notification and affirmation that the Moors, the chief justices on the land, who are bankers and judges and justices, because as we know, all bankers are judges and all judges are bankers when the Moors do it. It says, we accept the appointment and titles of fiduciary officer and president for Chase Bank in accordance with the law. And a determination has been made by the Moors, the federal government, that Chase needs additional funds to operate. Chase does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in our bank and trust, and shall hereby make loans and discharge obligations secured by such stock as collateral. So the stock that Chase Bank put in our state bank is the collateral for the printing of Delarium. The Federal Reserve has issued emergency currency, which shall be referred to as Federal Reserve Bank notes, backed by the commercial capacity of any assets of Chase. This action is effective at all Chase banks immediately. Title 5, it has been an honor to serve. Sincerely, Jamie Dimon, previously of the office of the president of Chase Bank. It's Empress Chatali asked, why did I specifically do Chase? We're not done yet. These documents, we have them for every bank at Earth We have them for every resource. We have them for every oil company. We have them for every commercial venue, every court. We have them for everything that has to do with us, our estate, and the whole universe. So we're showing you just a few of them. Those who provided those Moors who provided the inheritance and investment packets for the Moroccan American Exchange, I want to thank you specifically for putting your full faith and credit in you, in yourselves and your inheritance and your estate by putting those documents forth. That's what gives us the authority to put this on the public record, is those Moors who said, I know that Delarium is what it should be based on the law. I know that we have the authority with regard to the Moroccan American Exchange, and every bank, every company, every resource, every natural resource, everything, that we govern those things. But we had to put it in red first, even the names of those resources. And all other resources spring from that. What we're doing here is the opposite of what Louis Pacer did back in the 1800s, 17 and 1800s, he and George Washington. That is what George Washington and Louis Pacer did back in the day when they were capitalizing the resources. They would just, and that's why they're called the founders, because they went and found some documents. Well, so have we. Except we actually had to produce the documents and generate them in our own state. We couldn't even get the documents from them. We actually had to say, okay, we're the fiduciaries. They're dead. We're alive. And when folks die, and we talked about this on the last call, if someone is in the hospital and they die, and there's no one there, no family members, no anything, then the doctors automatically start declaring things about them and putting their names on papers and saying, okay, this body is going to the morgue. Okay, this body is, we need to find out some more about the resources so we can put the resources in probate and let the probate court start divvying up and doing things with regard to the resources. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Empress Rose asked in the chat, can we do one for a credit union? We have. And we can do them for any credit unions because they were operating in bankruptcy, and we cannot let them do that anymore because it's creating issues for them. Is only the institutions connected to the Federal Reserve? All institutions are connected to the Federal Reserve because the Federal Reserve, the original Federal Reserve, is connected to us. And about 2 or 3 years ago, we put a document on the public record notifying all custodians that we are the original IRS, we're the original Federal Reserve, we're the original Treasury, we're the original State Department, we're the original of all of that. And all resources are connected to the source. We are the source for all documents, everything, all resources. So yes, it doesn't even matter if someone down the street is a towing company. We are the CEOs of all of that too, because they were operating in bankruptcy. That's why we had to put the constitutions on the public record to tell them where they are. No, you're not at the state of Washington. You're not in the state of Washington. You are on the land that is Washington. Okay? And Empress Rose, I'll say this, there was a fake George Washington, and then there's an original indigenous George Washington. Everybody that they faked, there's an original. That is why, that's one of the reasons why, if you go back in the 1800s, there's a book written by someone who was doing business as Trump, who had a son named Barron in the book, and they talked about all the stuff that this one here, the subject here, was going to do. Because there's an original and then there's the foreign one of everyone and every. They acted out everything that we actually did and are doing. They acted it out previously. They're actors on a world stage. So we had to say, okay, enough. That's enough. We're good. We've enjoyed the show, so to speak. So Bank of America, same thing. We accept the titles and appointments as president and fiduciary officer for Bank of America. Bank of America, a determination has been made by the federal government that Bank of America and all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and needs additional funds to operate, therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act. We've done what we've done. And then it is signed by Brian T. Moynihan, who states that it has been an honor to serve. So Brian T. Moynihan, who was previously custodian in the office of president, is here for resigned. Back to custodian status, or back to subject status, rather. Microsoft, one of the first liens that we did. Yes, Empress Rose, yes, please do that. That's going to be important. You and I both have to do that demonstration as well. We did the appropriations piece. This is how you get Delarium honored, is you say, okay, we're honoring our own money. And then the subjects and the custodians will do as commanded, because they already know who the real is. So Microsoft, we Moors have accepted our appointment and title as chairman of the board and fiduciary officer for Microsoft in accordance with the law. Microsoft has been deemed by the federal government to need additional funds to operate. It has been an honor to serve, and that's Satya Nadella, which is the custodian previously in the office of Chief Executive Officer. Mercedes-Benz, Daimler and Mercedes, Office of the Chairman. The first sentence, we have accepted our appointment as fiduciary officer and chairman for Daimler AG and Mercedes-Benz AG in accordance with, and AG is Auto Group, in accordance with United States law, et cetera, et cetera. And additionally, a determination has been made by the federal government that Daimler AG and Mercedes-Benz AG and all agents, principals, heirs, and assigns needs additional funds to operate. Therefore, according to the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, Title III, Daimler AG and Mercedes Auto Group does hereby subscribe to the preferred stock in the state bank or trust company and shall hereby discharge obligations secured by such stock as collateral. The Federal Reserve has issued emergency currency, which is the Moorish sovereign Delarium, which shall be referred to as Federal Reserve banknotes backed by the commercial capacity of any assets of Daimler AG and Mercedes AG. This action is effective at all Daimler Auto Group and Mercedes Auto Group dealerships, stores, and offices immediately, according to Title V of the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. And it states here, it has been an honor to serve, and that's Ola Kalenius, who was previously custodian in the office of the chairman of the board, Daimler Auto Group and Mercedes-Benz Auto Group. And then also Mercedes-Benz Group here at North America. This is General Motors. Same thing. The Moores have accepted the appointments and titles of fiduciary officer and president for General Motors in accordance with United States law. General Motors have been deemed to need additional funds to operate on our land. So that has been provided by us. And Mary Barra was the custodian in the office of, and her resignation is accepted by the Moores. Okay. This is Apple. We have just a few more of these to go through today. And again, more of these, we'll make these available to you under the video at Light to Jury Base channel at YouTube. And then we'll also, in fact, I'll provide a link to these before this meeting is over. Remind me, please, to put a link to these documents in the chat so that you can pull them even beforehand. Okay. Here, Apple. Just one moment. Let me just make sure. Okay. Apple, same thing. We accept the titles and appointments as Chief Executive Officer and Fiduciary Officer for Apple in accordance with United States law. And this is signed by Tim Cook, Office of the Chief Executive Officer. He was a custodian therein, and he states it has been an honor to serve. Let me tell you what this looks like also, Moores. You may or may not see these custodians or subjects, rather. You may or may not see them doing things. They are doing things with regard to those subjects and custodians under their authority. And again, they don't have authority with regard to the Moores. They are custodians. Okay. They have a hierarchy. We do not. Okay. And then we authenticated what was stated. Here, American Airlines, Office of the President. The Moores do accept the title and appointments as President and Fiduciary Officer for American Airlines in accordance with the law. And we are providing them with money. And this is signed Robert Isom, Office of the President. He was previously the custodian therein. Yes, Justice Kansu, the Jubilee has arrived for Moores with info. Yes, Islam, indeed. This is what Jubilee is. This can also be done and should also be done where mortgages, tax assessors, all of the above, okay? Office Depot, Office Max. The Moores accept appointment and title of Fiduciary Officer and President for Office Depot and Office Max in accordance with the law, and we have provided them with money to get the things that we need, that we are using on our land. And this is signed Jerry P. Smith, Office of the President, and then Navy Federal Credit Union. Empress Rose, I believe you asked about the credit union piece previously. This is that piece as well. And this one, because of the communications and things that we have had where Navy Federal is concerned, this is actually our acceptance letter as President and Fiduciary Officer for Navy Federal Credit Union, and we went ahead and autographed this one. Knowing that they can't, there is nothing that they can do without us being the heads of everything. Everything. So I went ahead and autographed and authenticated this one, and it is indeed an honor to begin serving. And all Moors, you all are the presidents and fiduciaries, et cetera, as well, for any of the other, anything that's going on. And then Moors, we just demonstrate these documents. Just demonstrate them. So, and these documents can be demonstrated in any number of ways. However you demonstrate is how you demonstrate them. Okay? And because we are in our proper place and at our proper place, we have the say on what the money is. Because this is Navy Federal and American Airlines at North America. This is not in anyone's corporate fiction on paper only situation. They don't have the authority to do anything. So these companies that we are the heads of are at North America, Northwest Africa, Northwest Mexum, Turtle Island, Al Marak, the Maghrib Al Aqsa. These companies are on our land. Are there any questions, comments? Yes, in the chat. Islam mobility.
This is Karima Bay in Virginia Territory. So for recreating these documents, how would you suggest that we do that? So of course on our letterhead and the same language that's on there, yes, and our seals and our autographs, and maybe attach it to the ones that you presented, so it'll show the letterhead of these particular corporations and attached to our particular affidavit on our letterhead?
You don't even have to attach mine if you don't want to. You can if you want to. You can use mine. You can do whatever you want with mine. You are the authority. So you can attach them if you choose, or if you choose to print your own and use yours and demonstrate yours.
Is you going to get your free Cadillac at the Cadillac dealership?
Because
you're going to get your free Cadillac.
The court jesters are so funny sometimes. You can print up your own and generate your own and present your own as you so desire. You are the sovereigns. You're the sovereign monarch since ancient time immemorial. You have the authority to do that. So however you choose to do it.
Use your Delarium on recordings.
And of course, anyone who uses the ones that we have placed on the public record, we stand by everything that we put on a public record. So sure. Absolutely. However you choose to do it, Empress, you are the law and you are the government. And all must yield to your presentment.
You do know that Pauline has a regular Washington State plate on her car, don't you guys?
Okay, so Empress, so let's say I wanted to use the documents that you're presenting right now.
Pauline?
Okay.
How I'm trying to determine how would I get my sovereign-born appellation on that document. Yours is on there, and so if I want to put mine on there, I need to be creative and figure that out. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm saying go out onto the public record. I would suggest that you type them up and then go out onto the public record and get what you need. These will be under this video, so if you need to pull from it, pull from it. If you want to take these documents and put your appellation in there, however you choose to do it, you can do it. You're sovereign. You know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Whatever works best for you, Empress, we are at your service. So whatever works best for you.
Islam.
Islam.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because it's still gray. So concerning the banking piece, we still use our prepaid card.
However you choose to do the demonstration, Empress, based on your study. Always,
okay.
Yeah, always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding. Now, with these documents, if we say, because see, our Delarium and our money system is for everyone to use. So there are some citizens that are going to be using the money system. They can use what they have. Okay, we've naturalized all of that. And we've nationalized our resources and naturalized the resources that the citizens use. So they can use their ATM cards and all of that stuff if they want to use their ATM cards. Moors can use their ATM cards as long as you state the fiduciary document, as long as you have that document on the public record, that you're using your resources and not the resources of the dead. Okay, it's better because see the things that we are buying, their instruments are not going to support the things that we and we're not buying it. We're just doing the commercial proper accounting for the thing. For example, if there are very few of us that have an ATM card or even a credit card that you can go out and purchase a brand new conveyance on. Very few of us. But your merchant card you can. So it's better to have the merchant card because the merchant cards are 100 million each, or according to whatever you state the merchant card is. The sovereigns have much longer lines of credit simply because we're the creditor. But we actually had to create that because no one has the authority to create and access our credit but us. So for everything that I do, I'm just going to get them used to seeing my merchant cards come through. There are some Moors who, because of homelessness, and it's not homelessness because this is their home, houselessness, and all of that. These processes, everything that we're doing it with them in mind. They can have a card, a merchant card if they want to have a merchant card. And there are no barriers to them having one. That's why we're doing things the way that we're doing them. They can print these documents off and use them. If they don't want to make documents for themselves, they can use these documents as well and to get whatever it is that they need to get. We just ask, because you can't tell sovereigns what to do, we just ask that those who use the documents that we place on the public record, that you do so peacefully. Because the documents are done with peace energy. And war energy will not match the documents. You know, and anytime there's any type of controversy with regard to the documents, you know, the custodians will say, well, the Moors wouldn't do that, so we can't let the war energy come in and use these. We have to, you know, they know that we're peaceful. So, yeah. Yep, any Moors can use our documents to get whatever it is that they need to get. And it'll be a good idea if they have a moorishe ID. But even those who don't, the Moors who don't have a moorishe ID, If they're prepared to demonstrate their sovereign status, because many of us had to demonstrate our status with or without ID in a lot of cases because we didn't even have ID with us. We just spoke it, and it was so, you know. But they can use anyone who wants to use them, Islam. Are there any other questions or comments or anything of that nature? And again, more ultimately, because we are in the place that we're at, those citizen documents and cards and all that stuff is obsolete already, really. That's why we're saying what we're saying. And with regard to the citizens that use these banks and things like that we are the heads of, they have a limited amount of time to do that. That's why they've been prepping, and that's why there was some statement issued out of the UK saying, hey, everybody, y'all got 90 days to spend up all the fiat that you got, because they knew we were going to do this. So, you know, and even we can see now in the news more now. That's what Sri Lanka is all about, is everybody had an ATM card and all of that and bank cards and couldn't get anything. China, same thing. Yemen, same thing. Pakistan, same thing. There are places here where people cannot use ATM cards to get what they need. Here, but it's being blacked out more out of the news. It's being blacked out. That stuff started making its way to the top of the news, and they suppressed. They did it with the truckers in Canada, at Canada Corporation, who were protesting. They just cut them off. So Islam, Empress.
So it's necessary to have the charters on the record as well, right, in order to use these letters?
It is necessary to at least have the Constitution for your territory on the public record. And Moors, get with other Moors in your territory and share the Constitutions. And if you don't know of any Moors at your territory who
I've been here 4 or 5 times already, and I didn't even know, but because I've already been in this territory a few times.
Yeah. So then put the Constitution on the public record, Empress, if you have not done so already. You know, many of the Moors have already done so. That's going to tell the fake, you know, or not the fake, but the custodians where they are on the public record. There's a little bit of noise coming from someone's line here. Thank you, Nobility. So it's going to be important to put the things that need to be placed on the public record, put it on the public record more. This is why we've been moving so quickly in terms of putting out as much information as possible. We have hundreds of videos out there. If you don't have time to watch 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 hour videos, just take the last 10 videos and make sure that you watch those, okay, so that you can understand the fiduciary process and do your own research. Do your own research. Do your own research. Do your own research with regard to our status, our fiduciary responsibility and obligations. That's why the Constitution talks about obligations before the Constitution. Okay, we don't have any debt, but we do have obligations. There's a difference. Obligations is something that the fiduciaries take care of on the estate. And in order for us to take care of any obligations, we have to have the reins of the Treasury. And because, Moors, this is really important, because of the votes that we have taken on these calls, And because of the research and the talking to one another and to the congressional assemblies and the elections that we've had on these calls with regard to the issues, this is what gives us the authority to do this, is that we've been speaking as one. Okay? And with us speaking as one, no one can tell the people no. And if anyone is having a problem with, again, Janet Yellen, putting Janet Yellen's name on the Delarium on the left-hand side, because your sovereign appellation in red goes on the right. So nothing has changed with regard to the Delarium, except that when you put Janet Yellen's name, her signature on there, you do it in blue or black ink. Okay, and that is according to the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. But see, our sovereign-born appellations must be on there in order for it to even be valid. In order for anything to be valid, we have to sign it. We have to autograph it. And that is not, let me say quickly and concisely, just because we put her name as custodian on our Delarium does not mean that that's a contract. It's not a contract unless she had to actually come and sign something, which she didn't. She is not her own. Okay? That's in the bibliotext.
Okay. I think that was the piece I was missing, excuse me, that we need to sign put their signature on there. Okay. And also include that person on the fiduciary document?
No, you don't need to.
Okay.
No, you don't need to include.
Okay.
You don't need to include them. Just the letter is with their signature on it is enough. And again, the reason these letters are here is for peaceful obedience from the custodian. Okay? Peaceful obedience where the custodians are concerned. And again, they would do that anyway because we have proven that they will obey peacefully, just at our word. But again, it is written, it is written, it is written. And more, we actually needed to write things out also because we need to see in writing our own sovereign authority as a reminder. In the ancient records, it says, write the vision and make it plain so that he that reads it may run with it. Okay? That's now, and I'll say this about that, oof. That is the reason why so many bibliotext, also known as the Bible, also known as the ancient writings of the Holy Sibyls, because it's really the Holy Sibyls in its ancient format. That is the reason why that book and those writings and those ancient writings were so important to keep seeing, to keep seeing, to keep seeing. They wanted you to see those writings every Sunday, and for some of us, we were sitting in those churches 4 and 5 and 6 days a week for years at a time. Because the writings, we needed to see the writings, and that's how the programming happens. Well, we do the same thing, and then we say, okay, custodians and subjects, and they're already programmed. We're not programming them. We're just doing this for the benefit of solidifying the spell. Yes, Empress Rama, I took those words straight from what you put there. Solidifying the spell. These are spells, Morse. Competent spells. That we have to know our own authority to even do this. The fiduciary document helps with that. Are there any other questions, wisdom, comments, With regard to what we have put here, because again, we're going by all the laws that say we have the authority to do what we're doing.
Islam,
Empress.
when you post the link for the document, is there any way you can write it like you did the government email? For whatever reason, I can't see the chat.
Yes, I will do that. In fact, let me go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, I will do that right now, Empress. Let me turn off the share mechanism really quickly. I'm going to turn the share off real quick for just a moment. I'm going to pause it.
Islam, Empress?
Islam.
So we're fiduciary for all resources. So for letters that, I don't know all the letters that you have, you've shown us some of them today, but even if you don't have a letter for one, we can create one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For any corporation that's out there. Okay, Islam.
Absolutely. We have leaned and leaned and leaned and notified and notified and notified. And now it's time to take that even further. So it's going to be important as we move forward because, you know,
and you get a conveyance, and you get a conveyance, and you get a conveyance, and you get a conveyance.
He's agreeing with us. Keep going. You have our permission.
Oh, come on, Polly. Come on.
Okay, now you can be quiet. So, whenever there's agreement, Morris, that means that that it is as stated by us. Really quickly, let me pull these up and provide. I'll be providing the link to these documents really quickly. Give me just a moment. Now, more also remember that, you know, the reason that, again, that we were signing so many things in our sleep, unbeknownst to us at the time, was this same thing. There were documents being created with our signatures, and bonds being created with our signatures, and all types of things being created with our signatures, just because of the way that the things that we, you know, when we said that we were going to do, that when we first agreed to go to sleep, that was part of the agreement, was when we went to sleep, that they still could not manufacture authority. They actually had to get authority from us, whether we were aware or not. And that's why we even put in place ignorance of the law is no excuse. So that while we were asleep, our authority was being used. We just didn't know it was ours.
Empress Light, so when I think about that further, to further affirm what you just said, it's forgery for them if they were to take. That's why we had to always sign, because it's forgery for them to sign our names or autographs or whatever. But for us, it's not forgery because we're the heirs to everything.
Yes, and in the biblioteliothèque, we were given, and they said the nations as our inheritance, but they know they're not nations, they're societies. Okay, they are our inheritance too. In subject status, we can use whatever subjects we want to use in terms of the documentation and the paperwork. That is what the chosen is all about. Being the chosen is all about is we can use our whatever resources. They are a resource. It's called human resources for a reason. And who is the source of human resources? We are. They are as much a source, and I'm not going to equate them with horses because they're humans. But the same way that we would get a horse and use the horse to do whatever we need to do, a horse is a living, breathing animal. We can use living, breathing animals. Okay, but we also, again, and again, I'm not comparing the subjects to animals in that manner, okay? I want to clarify that. But what I am saying is they are a part of our inheritance. And that's why we can't be warring with them. Islam.
Chitali from Khalifa territory. So my question about nations. So China would not be a nation, they would be a society. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that there is a society at China, but the China Moors are China. They are a nation. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Islam.
Yes, this is Ronnie L. Bay from Florida Territory.
Grand Rising.
I'm trying to get some Delarium. My vision just been impaired recently, so I'm not able to put it in the chat. If I can leave my email or someone can send me some Delarium.
Sure.
Is that possible?
Sure.
Okay. This is RONEY.
Empress Rima, can you get that and please send him some?
Absolutely. Give me one moment to pull up my notepad, Noble. Just a moment, please.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, and I'm going to put the link to these documents in the chat.
Okay.
Empress Rose, you asked in the chat, is the green postcard international for us, or do we need the pink one? I use the green one because everything to us is domestic. Justice Malik, the link to the documents is in the chat for those who've attended this meeting. Thank you for being here as well. How do we sign Yellen's name, all lowercase or uppercase? You sign it in capitis diminutio minima. Thank you. That's a great question. You sign it the way it's on this document. Let me pull the document back up, and I'll show you how you would just sign that. And you can even screenshot this if you choose to. But it's in the public domain as well.
Okay, Noble, give me one moment.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, I'm ready for your email.
Okay, all lowercase, RONEY G617@gmail.com.
Is that G or D as in dog?
G as in gold, yes.
Gold.
Okay, so that's RONEY, G as in gold, 617@gmail.com?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'll go ahead and send that now as well.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Empress Light.
So you would write her name just like that. As much as you can. I mean, if you see the way it showed up, you know, the way, when I was putting it on my Delarium, it looked like a second grader wrote it. It was just, you know, but it gets the job done. And I use a blue ink pen because I don't have any black ink pens. But black, I could have used black just because it's our money. But then when I do my autograph, it's always in either red or blue. And most of the time it's in red. So, and then at some point, we may even add the words Federal Reserve Bank note to Delarium, but that's not necessary. I mean, you know, that's just, you know, we may or may not. It's not necessary though. You all have Delarium the way that you have it, and that's how you use it. That just put Janet Yellen on the left and your sovereign autograph on the right. And have it accompany the documentations that are here and your moorishe ID. And I would encourage you to, if you know you're going somewhere, for example, Walmart, I have to, you know, I have to pull up the one for Walmart and other places, and we're going to just demonstrate because even their systems are starting to reject their own documentations. Their systems are rejecting their stuff. So one thing I know about this whole transition that we're going through is that because of the work that we all have been doing, we're not going to have problems like Sri Lanka is having and Yemen and the places where people are feeling like they need to run to the house of the one that was doing business as judges and presidents and, you know, all of that. We're not going to, this is going to be such a peaceful transition for us. It really is. It's going to be so peaceful that people are just going to be like, wow, you all did that so peacefully. It's just going to be very peaceful. We're not going to have any issues from the subjects and the custodians because we're competent and we're peaceful. And we're giving them due process in terms of more. When you go to use these instruments, notify a couple of times before you go to actually use them. So the first time that I go to do anything, I just deliver everything. I deliver everything. And then the next time I'll go and deliver just the main documents as a reminder, and I may wait a month or 2 weeks or 3 months. Just enough for it to make its way through their structure, you know, their custodial structure. And then the third time, I'll go in and start talking to the head custodians. Talking to frontline people, you might as well not waste your breath because they're not, the frontline people, you can explain everything to them if you want to, but then the first thing they're going to say is, I got to go get a manager. So to save you, if you want to save yourself some time, just go ahead and say the custodian in the office of manager. And we'll just demonstrate and demonstrate and demonstrate because it's either and I'm not going, it's not an option for other things to happen, but you can look at the news and see what happens when things are not done in the way that we're doing them. Okay, we're doing things the right way so that we don't have any issues on this land because everyone is watching to see. Islam Empress.
So do we send this to the, I want to say, president or CEO of these corporations, or take them to our local places where we do business?
You send it to the custodian in the office of CEO first. Then you take the tracking number with you to the local. That's how I do it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. For example, I sent copies of these to, I don't even know why because they're not there, but I sent copies of these to DC, the other DC, because this is the original District 4 Columbia here, which we saw that on a map from the 1800s. But I kind of knew in my spirit that that's what it was, because nowhere else do they have a place called Federal Way. I'm like, Federal Way, really? And here I am, ended up at Federal Way territory, but okay. I went ahead and sent copies of this out prior to putting them here on the public record as well. And then next week we're going to continue sending more out. So we send it out to the custodians in the office of CEO, and you know, a lot of them aren't even there, but we send it anyway because it's due process. The same way fake sheriffs used to send things not knowing whether you live there or not, or any of that stuff. They don't know whether the people are there or not, and they could have moved someplace else and not forwarded the mail or whatever. Our job as the sovereign, honorable, noble court is to go ahead and notify.
Okay.
Yes.
It's peace. Thank you.
You're welcome, Empress. And thank you for your demonstrations.
All right.
Islam, Empress?
Yes, Islam.
So let's say to do a demonstration for Office Match or Office Depot. I saw that was one of the documents that was on there. So of course, we notify, and give them due process. So let's say we wanted to get office supplies or whatever so we can perform our government duties. There has to be a sovereign exchange on the record. So will a cashier's check or Delarium suffice, or are you suggesting that we use the merchant card for certain things and then cashier's check for other things? And
however you choose.
Does that make sense? Okay. Okay.
I feel comfortable with merchant cards because the merchant card has AA222141 on it. It also has my sovereign security number on it, which is you know, we lean the social security number, so we're not using that because our numbers don't have minus signs in them. So we put our sovereign security number there and the AA222141, and then our sovereign born appellation, which matches our moorishe ID, which is also going to match these documents. You know, so everything matches. And then either we can use the merchant card or we can use Delarium, because Delarium also has our sovereign, you know, our autograph on it, our sovereign autograph, along with Janet Yellen. And I think that using the custodian, using Delarium, I think that's probably going to be best for them. I think it will be easier for the custodians.
You're saying it'll be easier for the custodians to use Delarium and have Janet Yellen's signature on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I may even put my sovereign security number on my Delarium. You know, just write it in like you would a check. Remember how they used to do checks back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah. Delarium is the same thing. I would do it the same way. But see, Delarium, this is the beauty of Delarium. Delarium, not only is it gold back because it comes from us. Everything that comes from us is gold back. I don't care what we issue, it's gold back. But not only that, but it is, I consider it an all-in-one, because it can be processed as a check, it can be processed as cash, it can be processed as a bond, it can be processed as it can be processed as any instrument out there, any negotiable instrument or other or non-negotiable instrument. Delarium can be processed however, you know, whatever systems. And I will say this about Delarium: when they put Delarium into their cash register, they can do AA222141 and the amount, and you issue them the exact amount of Delarium, and then have them to just round up any change to the next dollar or whatever amount. And because they can't really issue change right now. Now, as time goes on, and we get everybody trained on the use of our money, we are going to mint gold coins and things like that. We just have to get them accustomed to, you know, to taking what we have. Because taking what we have right now, and it's not even a matter of them accepting it, they don't have a choice, they accept it. Anyone who accepted the Constitution must accept Delarium or merchant cards. Anyone who accepts the Constitution, and anyone doing commerce. Why? Because of the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 and the Bankruptcy Act of 1933. Justice Jade asked a good question. I knew that question was going to come up. Does Janet Yellen's signature have to be on our Delarium to be valid? We can speak and not say Janet Yellen and it's valid. Can you demonstrate that? That's the question. According to, because the reason that it's on there at this point, and it's on there if you write it on there. If you don't write it on there, it ain't on there. Okay? You're going to notify well in advance anyway. The only reason that it's there is because we did say custodians be the occupy until we come. Okay? And when we coming up for us, the emergence of the Moors, that means us coming out and being ourselves, is a peaceful one that to where the systems will obey. Okay, because we put these systems in place. These systems don't belong to them, they belong to us. But then we said, okay, we're going to put this society in place too, so that we can watch what they're doing and then say, okay, we know how to do all of that now, so let's move forward. Well, if you look at the Federal Reserve debt note, not the bank notes, because the Delarium is the bank note, they have the debt note is a hypothecation of the bank note. But what they did was they took it and they said, okay, a pyramid will go over here, even though most of them couldn't even explain the pyramid. We looked at the pyramid and didn't know that that was ours. But that's what the union was all about. And that's why Janet Yellen's signature goes on there. But she cannot put it on there. We have to do it. It's not valid if she puts it on there. It's only valid if we put it on there, because we have the keys to the kingdom, the access to the empire.
Excuse me.
Islam.
Which corner exactly do you put Janet Yellen's signature?
Anywhere on the left-hand side. When I did it, let me show you. I think I still have that.
I'm on the phone.
Okay. All right. I'll just show the Moors here who can see it, and that way, Empress, you'll be able to see it when you look back at the video.
Okay.
I'll show you how I did mine. Let me see.
Okay, Empress, so you're showing us how you did it, how you wrote it on there. So that's Janet Yellen's signature right there that we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay, Islam.
Yes. And then I'll also show you the Delarium that I used as a sampling, but it's real Delarium, so we use it. Here, what I'll do is I'll scan it in and show it to you, Ayers, so that you can see. Just one moment. Here, I'll show you how I did mine.
Empress, can I ask a question really quick?
Sure.
Okay, so for the domicile that I was unlawfully removed from, I did a demonstration before I was removed from there, and it included a cashier's check. So what did they do with that? Or what could they have done with that at the time? Because I'm not there, so they still have the cashier's check. They know I'm who I say I am. So why am I not back in my domicile?
Because we needed to do more due diligence on the process.
Okay.
See, they know who we are, Empress. They know about the Constitution. They know about the money. They know everything about our science. We're the ones who didn't remember about our own science. And the way that this whole thing unfolds, our ancestors want us, number one, speaking on the public record. Number one, speaking on the public record competently and peacefully. That's number one. Number two, they wanted us to come together in a unified manner and all of us speak with one voice on doing this. And they wanted us to be the state, because the state, as you know, see, you weren't in there because we had not announced that we're the state. Okay? So our ancestors didn't want us doing things individually. They wanted us to use the power and authority of our estate, which is the state. Okay? They wanted us unified. This is an exercise in Moorish unity because it was, things got kind of undone, so to speak, because people were contracting individually when we're the state. Why would we contract separately when we're the state? We need to make sure that not just one of us can eat, but that all of us can eat, and statehood allows that to be the case.
Islam.
So this is an exercise in us being ourselves and doing it together from a state and government perspective. Okay, they were here to teach us how to govern. And hopefully you can see the Delarium on the screen.
Yes, Empress, I can see it.
Okay. I just Janet Yellen on one side, and then my sovereign appellation on the other. When you hear them talk about the left and the leftists, and then the right that, this is what they're talking about. And generally, when they say left, they mean the Democrats, and then when they say right, they mean the Republicans. Islam, Empress.
Just for the record, why wouldn't that be signing Janet Yellen's name? Why wouldn't that be considered forgery?
Because of our fiduciary document, we leaned the real forgers, the fakes. So we have the trademark and patent on every letter, every color ink, every word, every name, no matter what arrangement those letters are, we have the patent and the trademark on them as the state and as the nation. That's why they could see, when they were claiming to be the state and we were asleep, they would take anything. That's why they were claiming all property, because they would take whatever numbers or letters, whether it said Pauline Denise Ritchie or they just took all of that and said, we own all of this because we patented the letters. And that is stated very clearly on land patents. They don't call them land patents, they say letters patent. They say, and that's how they make their declaration. And if no one had rebutted them saying that, then they would have kept on going. But they can't keep going because we have patented and trademarked all letters and everything. But we had to debt them first. We had to put them in debt first.
And Priscilla, am I correct in saying that those custodians in the Office of Returners, they had to get a letters patent to be able to have a title of nobility as well? I believe I was listening to Dr. Arlene Day, and he was giving a lecture on that piece.
Yep. Everything that they have done previously, they ran it through the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office. And the way you know that that's true is because each and every form that they use has a form number. And the numbers on those forms are ran through the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office. That's why we don't use their forms, because they patent them.
Yeah, and when they discontinue them, they give them a different letter too. Like if a form goes, they don't want to use that one anymore, they have some updated or whatever, they'll give it another number.
Yes, yes. And for those who want to do a little research on that, check the Office of Budget Management. They call it OMB. The Office of Budget Management, they have those numbers, those letters transposed for some reason. But the OMB is all of their quote unquote government forms have an OMB number, usually in the lower left corner. But it depends on what year the form was created. But each and every form has a different OMB number. And that stands for Office of Budget Management. And the reason the Office of Budget Management does the forms is because each form is worth fiat to them. That's why we don't fill out their forms. We use affidavits to speak. Because they want the fiat associated with that form. They don't care what the form says. They're tapping into trust, or were previously tapping into trust associated with those forms. That's why each form had to have a name and a social security number, because that's what they were pretending to do. There's a question that someone inbox says, Empress, didn't you say that you're the Treasury, so why not your signature? My autograph is on there. My autograph is on there. On the right-hand side. And when you were, like back in the day when we used to write checks, we always signed the check on the right-hand side because that's the creditor. And they called it the authorized representative. And then they would put on the left side of the check, they would print the letters and the name and the address and the phone number and sometimes the social, depending on if you chose that on your checks. And but whoever it was that was assuring or insuring or being the surety for those checks, they signed on the right. And what made us surety was that we didn't know they had already trademarked all of that. That's why we don't use their forms. So we had to lean the United States Trademark and Patent Office, and we had to lean the United States Corporation Company and all of its agents, principals, heirs, assigns, etc. And we would encourage all Moors, if you just want to do a little extra research, go ahead and lean the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office, because when you read their documents that they give out when they're giving out patents and trademarks, it specifically says you must use black ink to do this, and that the letters and the tone of what you're writing, whether it be a logo that you're patenting, a name, a word, or whatever, that they own it because of the black ink and the letters. It says that in their Everybody who sent anything through the Trademark and Patent Office signed that document. Okay. Justice Counsel is asking, can we go to the local high street bank and put Delarium? I don't know. Can you? The demonstration is there for you to do. Now, the way that I'm doing my banking demonstrations is I've been either hand delivering them or, because that's my postmaster duties, I'll hand deliver the documentations or I will mail the documentations and then just watch the account. So, Justice Morpheus says, absolutely, because I placed my domicile in a trust as a state and it worked. Yes. Our ancestors wanted us to be the state because the estate and state are the same word. And they mean the same, Do we send an affidavit of fact or notice of claim with the 40 instruments or a cover sheet with instructions, however you choose to do it, Empress? However you choose to do it. It's your demonstration to do. You have the sovereign authority to do that demonstration however you're led to do it by the Spirit within you. The way that we did it was we went ahead and just put the documents on the public record, the red documents, the 40 red documents on the public record as notification because, again, this is a court. So our court, we're saying, okay, we're notifying you in red first because we are God. We are the Lord. Okay? And then we put it in blue because now that we have spoken to the heavens, we're speaking now in this dimension, and we're doing admiralty and maritime law. They were never doing admiralty and maritime law. They were doing lost at sea stuff and pretending like it was admiralty and maritime law when it wasn't. They were treating everyone as if they were lost at sea or treating their corpses as if they were lost at sea. And if you claim the corpse, they said, okay, we got another one that done jumped in and thinks we're talking to them, so let's treat them like that. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments or
Islam,
Empress?
I talked to my neighbor today, and he had just got out of the hospital, and some guy who supposedly is a real estate agent was telling me that my neighbor wanted to sell his house, and he had it on the market, and that he had found a place for him, and, gave me this whole spiel about how he's the only one that's checking on him. But I checked, and the house is now on the market, and my neighbor said he wants to stay in his house. He's not trying to sell his house. And I, wanted to see how I can help him.
Well, from your studies, what do your studies tell you about that?
Well, I can do a lien and let them know that I'm the fiduciary for him. But he would have to, want to, like do a name change and all that.
They don't need to do a name change. Because what are they going to change it to? A title of nobility? No.
Yeah.
What they need to do is just they can do a statement of jurisdiction stating that they are constitutionally bound. They're bound by the Constitution. And when they admit and agree, and it's not even an agreement because they wouldn't even be here if they weren't bound by it. That's why they call it binding.
So it's another more.
Okay. Well, if it's a more, then if you can get him to declare his nationality, that would be better. But if he's not willing to declare his nationality, then you can do it as he's a subject of yours. Is what's called a protege Moor. Some Moors have come to this. A protege, they call it a protege Moor, is someone who's just refusing to accept the truth or even look into it any further to validate. Some
well,
don't
he's kind of sick. I mean, he's really sick. But we did talk about that. So he knows about the Moors, but he's really, ill right now.
Yeah.
So I don't want to force him to do any more than he can.
Well, Empress, that is completely up to you how you handle that.
Okay.
Completely up to you how you handle it. He's anyone who's not declaring their nationality is in subject status automatically.
Okay. And the person that's claiming that the house is on the market is a Moor as well.
Well, and they have to be willing to at least acknowledge that the name that's on there is not valid. That's how come they don't have any rights to anything. And because the all caps name that's being thrown out there by quote unquote mortgage companies, that's unlawful.
Right.
So they have to be willing to at least do a name change document.
Okay. And referring to the person that I'm trying to help, not the real estate agent.
The real estate agent is not even a real estate agent if they are not declared Moor.
Right.
That means that they are unlawfully occupying because we have accepted all of our officers.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, a lot of times you see a lot of them getting into trouble because of the things that they're doing, or either being told, no, you can't sell anything else.
Right. He's not the owner of the company, but the owner of the company that he works for is a Moor as well.
They have to declare their nationality or else taxation is going to ensue.
Right. Now, do I lean them too, or just...
You're not leaning them as living, breathing human beings. You're leaning the all caps that was issued fraudulently to them by the United States Corporation Company.
Okay.
So really your liens are on the birth certificate, the social security number, and the address, really, because that address has all of that in a fraudulent U.S. Trademark and Patent Office trust document that's not valid. It's called QV. So they don't need to be claiming that identity because it's not a good identity to have. It's an arrestable offense to even claim that identity.
Right.
Yeah. And I will say this about the sleeping Moors who are saying I don't believe in that Moor stuff. The system is closing in.
Yeah, it is.
And either you and I'm not even going to say either they declare or be destroyed because we're not even going to claim that anybody's going to be destroyed. We're declaring that everyone is going to wake up to who they are, and for some of them, and this is some Moors are really, really tough. So it's going to take a little more for them to declare their nationality. They're going to have to go through a little more.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't know who I was and hadn't had the experiences that I had, I probably would be one of those that had to hit a real low bottom before I declare who I am.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't know what I know in terms of and really that has a lot to do with the spirit realm, just being open to knowing who we are in the spirit realm. And that's what Christianity kind of, not Christianity because Christianity is good, hypothecated, subrogated, commercial Christianity put programs up in people's minds.
Right.
Christianity in and of itself, we're all the original Christians, believe it or not. The Moors, we started everything.
Right.
Everything. In its most pure form. We had to be it before we could say, okay, subjects, this is for you. Because the doctrine had to be sound, and in order for it to be sound, it had to come from us, you know. And then it's been, you know, of course it's been corrupted and adulterated by frauds and things like that, but it's clearing up over time, you know. So, are there any other questions or comments? Justice Sharif, the answer to what you're saying is that's not a good idea. What you inboxed me, not a good idea. We don't suggest that.
Empress,
Islam.
I believe it was Empress Rose L that asked the question just now. So relative to her question, had it been a modern European that she wanted to assist, they would need to sign a ipso jure affidavit. Is that the correct affidavit and language in that affidavit that they would need to sign?
They can sign that.
Okay.
They can, if they're willing to do that. If they're not willing to do it, then they just have to deal with what comes. And I don't mean to sound callous or harsh, but the lower courts are now they're enforcing what we tell them to enforce, and so, you know, they're going to have to claim the proper constitution, not a corporate constitution, but the original indigenous organic constitution is what they're under as subjects of the Moors. So Moors subject ipso jure. So Moors, if you wanna write out a document, and I would actually have them to write out their own document on their paper, and then enforce it in Moors if you wanna be the authority and stamp and seal their affidavit that they wrote on their paper, not using our government letterhead, but authenticate the document that they generate and produce, then you can do that. The same way a notary would, or any other, you know, any other one who's authenticating. You know, notaries are not really authenticating anything unless they're us. The same way we authenticated the documents that we showed on the screen. That properly state our authority, and tells everyone who, you know, again, who we are. And this is just more due process. We're a court. And in fact, we are the world court, we're the earth court, we're the International Court of Justice, we're the International Criminal Court, we're all of that. We're every court that there ever was. And so our job is to continue to notify. We have to do that. Notify and just keep notifying. Because as we move, as we notify and then we do the movement, those documents, Justice Morpheus, are 8.5 by 11. They're on their paper. And again, this is not for our benefit. This is for the benefit of the custodians, so that they know that they can stand down, because that's appropriate in a peaceful situation. And Justice Sharif, you don't have to put anything on there, but the sovereign autograph that really matters is the Moors. So for the Moors that don't feel comfortable putting Janet Yellen on your Delarium, you don't have to. You're sovereign. Nobody can tell the Moors what to do. We're doing this again, number one, as a unit, a sovereign nation, sovereign government. All we're doing is saying we govern everything on our land, and the custodians have to see something in their hierarchy that is constitutionally sound for them. Okay? And so we, of course, we are the law. We are the government. It is appropriate, though, Morris, for us not to speak directly to them, but to speak through the head custodians that we put in charge. That's why Janet Yellen's name would go on your Delarium. Because we put a structure in place for them. It's called executive, legislative, and judicial. And if you want to see that in the Biblioheliotheque, Isaiah the 33rd chapter, verse 22, talks about us being the Lord, the judge, and the king. That's executive, legislative, and judicial. That scripture is what we put in place for them, and we said, you all have to have a leader. The Moors don't need a leader. They have to have a leader. They have to have a king, because that's the way we set things up for them. There's an echo coming from somewhere. Oh, Justice Sharif, there's an echo coming from your line. So, you know, we want to honor the structure that we put in place, which is speak to the head custodian and have that head custodian tell them what to do. Well, this is how you do it, because the head custodian can't even speak and tell them anything we say without getting our permission first. So this is our way of giving them permission to say what we're already saying. You know, these documents are going out for the media as well, so that the media can do what they need to do properly. It's important because the media is a voice, but that voice cannot speak until we give it permission to speak in the way that we do, in a way that is competent about the Moors. They cannot speak about the Moors competently until we tell them what to say. And this is how you tell them what to say. And we don't tell them what to say. I don't need them to talk about light to Jure Bay. I don't need them to talk about me. They do need to be putting some correct information about the Moors and the government and the nation, though. Some generalizations. We'll do the particulars, and the generalizations need to be exactly as we state them. So, with that being said, is there any other questions or comments? We can bring this Congressional Assembly to an adjournment until Thursday. If there's no further questions or comments or sovereign wisdom, Islam Empress.
What time do the sessions start on Sunday? Because I thought it was the same as Thursday, and when I arrived, it was already started.
They start an hour earlier than Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So it's 6 p.m. Eastern on Sundays and 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. Islam Empress.
I'm trying to find someone that's good at making an ID card.
Justice Abbasi Talib Bey is good at making ID cards. But you can make your own, you know.
Yeah, I need a machine.
Just saying. And for Moors who can't get access to a machine, the way we do it is we create it on our computer, and then we will get one of those plastic ID card holders and slip it right in that plastic ID card holder. Listen, the way we see governing is that there are no barriers to us governing, and that everything that needs to be done, we can each do it right from where we are. Those Moors who don't have computers can go down to the library, create an ID card for free, and then print it off, and then get one of those little 2 pieces of plastic and put them together so that your ID card remains firm. Is that the most, does that look like a Fortune 500 company did it? No, it may not look like that. But you know what? You have an ID, and it's as long as you can demonstrate that, then you don't need, because you're sovereign. Sovereigns don't need anyone. We choose to govern together. And that's why Moors, a lot of us, myself included, the first year that I nationalized, the ancestors had me sequestered from all other Moors. No Moors came by. I didn't know of any Moors in the territory, and I was looking for Moors, and the ancestors said, no, you need to stand on your own 2 feet during this testing. I was tested without having Moors coming in 2017 and 2018. And it was only after I was able to stand and knew that I didn't need to lean on any other Moors that the ancestors said, okay, now we'll send Moors and you can assist them and they can assist you. But as long as there's no, the ancestors do not want us to have an unhealthy dependence on one another. They want us to have a healthy assistance of one another. Because a sovereign, anything that a sovereign leans on, that's an admission that you don't know you're sovereign. So that the way this works is, and this is something the ancestors told me early on, they said, like, if you're going to be assisting people with governing, you have to find ways to do things so that every Moor can do anything that you do. Anything that you do, any Moor should be able to do it right from where they are without any special accommodations and all of that. Moors should be able to make their own. There are Moors who don't want to use fiat to get the things. So go down to the library and print out your ID. And if the library has a laminating machine, laminate it there, or get you 2 pieces of plastic and put them together. Or get one of those really thick, clear tape and neatly put it on the ID so that your ID is protected. Where there's a will, there's a way. No one can tell a state how to do state business. We have guidelines, but Moors, you don't have to wait for somebody to mail you an ID card. You don't have to wait for anybody to mail you nationality documents. You don't even have to wait for anybody to seal your documents and stamp your documents. We put the seals, the same seals that we use, we put them under each and every video on Like to Jury Bay channel. And not only that, we've also put links to the documents that have the government seals and flags on it that you can take and put, copy and paste right onto your documents. So you don't have to put things in the mail and wait for somebody 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, or ever to get your stuff back to you. You're sovereign. You should be able to produce your own and generate and originate your own everything. The documents that we show you on here, you can generate them. And that's every document that we have ever put out, all Moors. You don't have to go through anybody because sovereigns create. If you choose to, that's a choice. But even then, no one has the right to even require fiat of you because that's placing a lien on that which is already yours. And that came from our Grand Sheik a couple of weeks back. When he said that, the light bulb went on again in my head. I'm like, that is a lien. Wait a minute. When people say that you got to pay them fiat to get a document that you want to demonstrate, So what we say, okay, is just write it yourself, because they're not doing anything you can't do, because you're both sovereign. And 9 times out of 10, and I'll say 10 times out of 10, every Moor that I have ever known who spent fiat on a document, that document didn't work for them. Or it worked minimally, and then the ancestor said, okay, now you're going to have to do the rest on your own. You know, I mean, I've heard of Moors, even recently, Moors that I thought knew better. I've heard of them spending $1,500 and $5,000 Federal Reserve debt notes, thinking that someone can print them some documents that they can't print themselves. That's ridiculous and ludicrous and crazy, and just, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm not talking about people. I'm not calling people ludicrous. I'm calling the process of thinking that someone can sell you your identity and who you are and your status. No one can do that. And if you do just a little bit of study, you can come up with better documents than anybody can sell you. Because if their documents really work, they wouldn't have to sell them. Not for no fiat. I'm just saying. And I'm not, again, I'm not bashing anybody. And if what I'm saying makes you mad, you probably somebody selling documents. I don't know. And I'm not trying to, again, we love everybody. We're at peace with everybody. But Moors, it's time to wake up. We don't need to keep pushing fiat. We need to push the empire, because empire comes first. Our heirs are dependent on us. Our families, our kin are dependent on us. Our ancestors are dependent on us. Justice Morpheus, what do you mean about the sovereign Moorish identification number? I use my Moorish sovereign security number for everything, because that's in alignment with what our ancestors used, is the sovereign security number. It is the same sequence as a social security number, but we create sovereign security numbers because fakes can't create nothing sovereign. And then we just present it the way we present it, which is with no dashes, no minus signs in it. You know, so if the social security number that we were previously claiming, and I'll just use this as an example, was 123-45-6789, our sovereign security number, after we lean that one that was created by some corpses, we lean that one, and then we say this is our sovereign security number, 123, and you can use a space or a plus sign, 45 space 6789, and you put it in blue or red ink. That's your sovereign security number. Okay. You don't and that's something even there that you don't have to get from anybody else. You can create your affidavit of sovereign security number and your living birth affidavit. All of that, Moors, you can create. And examples of all of that is under this video on at Light to Jure Bay. We put our actual documents out there so you can see them and create them. Why? Because we know how important it is for each and every one of us to do this. We know how important that is, that if there are no barriers to statehood, why would we put barriers up there for each other, like fiat barriers or pretending to be an authority over Moors when you know you're not an authority over Moors, because no one rules the Moors, no one leads the Moors. We don't have any leaders. We're all the leaders. If anyone walks into a room full of Moors and asks who's in charge, we all stand up and say we are. Islam nobility.
That is Brother Morpheus. In reference to what I put in the chat about we're about the Sovereign Moorish identification number. When I first came in, I signed my paperwork, et cetera. It was sent to Sharon, and then I got a moorishe, I guess, ID. And then later on, I created a moorishe sovereign security number. So I have two. So you was talking about us, creating ID cards and stuff like that. But I guess, like you said, we could just use a social security number. I was just thinking about, but what about those numbers that I got from Sharon? I don't know where she got those numbers from. I don't know if she sent them somewhere and magically it was put on my first ID card. I don't know where those numbers came from, but I do create my own sovereign security number.
Okay, I'll say this about the numbers. So when we first started doing moorishe consular work, we were assigning more MAC numbers, Moorishe American Consulate numbers.
Right. Okay.
That's where those numbers come from, Moorishe American Consulate numbers. The sovereign security number is a moorishe government number, moorishe National Republic Federal Government number. Okay.
Okay.
So one is a consulate number and one is a government number. The consulate number is where you hold your own records, your own consular records, your own name change and judicial proclamation and all of that. And then the government number is when you're out doing things like this, where you're out and you're saying, okay, this is my sovereign security number. It goes on the merchant card, and then you put the AA222141A1, and then you present these documents that we presented today.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying, because I don't know why I didn't really know where those numbers came from. You explained to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and then each region of the moorishe American Consulate, when we first started doing this, each region had MAC and then a fourth letter. But then it got to be so many consulates and so many doing consular work, which is a great issue to have, is we ran out of letters. And so then we started doubling letters and all that. And then the ancestors said, okay, this is what they told us. They said, you have to make it so that the Moors can independently do the things they need to do, because it's their estate. You cannot govern their estate for them by holding documents, and then they can't move without the documents. The ancestor said, nope, that's not how you're going to govern this estate along with them. Is we all have to have autonomy to move and do and demonstrate at any moment. We must be instant, in season and out of season. So the ancestor said the reason that they put that we put the social security number system in place, we did that. We said a 9-digit system. Then we said, well, when we wake up, we're going to lean that system, but while we're asleep, we're going to use that system. They didn't invent that.
Right.
We did. So the ancestor said, you already know everything they did. All they did was hypothecate and subrogate and clone everything that was originally ours. They cloned everything that was originally ours. They did a false fraudulent shell corporation clone. So we just took it back. We didn't really take it back because we didn't need that. That was dead that they were producing. We said, okay, let's originate the living.
I just want to clarify also, thank you for clarification, but also I put in the chat, so I got my moorishe identification card from Jure, and then that's a typo. It was Sharon, you know what I'm saying? So I just want to be, whoever was reading, I don't want them to think that that's durable. But he did make me maybe some duplicates, over the months, but I really appreciate it. Yeah.
And at any given time, you can make your own duplicates.
That's right. Absolutely.
You can issue, you can reissue, I mean, any of those numbers you choose to use, you can use them because you're sovereign. If you want to use the MACN numbers, you can use them. You know, Empress Sharing gave those numbers. Okay, use them if you want to use them. I have a MACW number. I have a MAC number. But I prefer to use my sovereign security number because for my own reasons. And plus, I know how the system is set up. The financial system, we set the system up. And in order for us to access that system in the way that I'm seeing on a super large earth-wide scale, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. What we have to do is properly, competently proclaim that which really is. Okay? So, you know, our ancestors made this very easy for us. That's why the whole earth is like, Moors, when are y'all going to wake up? And now we're awake. Islam, Empress.
Yeah, while we're talking about cards and things, I was always curious. I think when you woke up, you got your nationality card from RV Bay Publications, and so did I, and many more did. And I was always curious about what the numbers were on those cards. I'm not trying to, you know, cause division or any kind of confusion or anything, but I was always wondering what they were because I went on the website and it was addressed that they're not this, we're not a 501c, when those numbers are not this, they're not that, but it was never spoken to as to what the numbers were. So I didn't know if you could speak to that or not.
I cannot speak for RV Bay Publications. I will say this, we absolutely are we honor the work that they do. We love the work that they do. We love
absolutely
them. And we support any support that we can assist or give. We are giving it. It's available. We willingly give our support to them because they've done some awesome work. We cannot speak to what the numbers are. I can say what I think they are. I think it's a file number, just for their records. But you know, I don't know that for sure because we didn't issue those numbers. They did. You know, but I will say this: I know that the numbers are not malicious numbers because when I first nationalized and then got documentation from RV Bay Publications, I went ahead and demonstrated those documents and they worked. And then the ancestor said, okay, you see that you are who you say you are. Now we want you to put some things in place too, like Delarium and, you know, some other things, you know, that kind of like we stand on the honor of the work that they've done, you know. So I'm guessing, I think it's probably a record number or a record number because we are all courts of record. And I first saw that term where Moors are concerned. I saw that on RV Bay website, you know. But again, I cannot speak for RV Bay. I can say that we love, and we're so grateful that they were here when we first woke up and that they're still here, you know.
Islam, I always give them supreme high honors. I think I mentioned it before. Anna E., Rosmarai Bay, Ms. Raheem, Kudra Adwa, I love them. I still listen to Blog Talk Radio. It's just while we were on the subject, I wanted to mention it and go ahead and get it out of my head. Since it was important.
And
Islam.
Also, there's another Empress Zaliel L. Whew. You talking about some powerful documents? Oh my word!
I think I saw some of her documents. Islam.
Yeah. Empress Zaliel L, Empress Anna E L, Empress Sheikis Rosmaria, just powerful empresses. So, you know, we're just grateful that they were here when we woke up to correspond, and I'm just grateful that they took the time to write back. When we wrote, they wrote back. When we emailed, they emailed back, you know, and I don't think that they knew the seeds that they were planting at the time, but they were very powerful seeds that they planted. They showed me powerful empresses from day one. And so I was like, yes, let's do it that way. Let's be powerful, you know. So I'm grateful for them.
When I first woke up, I used to be I have to be to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'd be up to 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, just reading, because there was so much information that I had no clue of.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful for the information that they presented as well.
I am too. And any chance that I get to thank them on the public record, I do. I thank them directly. If they can hear this, I thank you so much. I honor you. I always have and always will. I'm grateful that our Grand Sheik, he wrote a lot of the affidavits. Grand Sheik Tashariq Bey wrote a lot of the affidavits that are on RV Bay website. And that's, when I first saw those affidavits, I said, I've got to learn how to do this. I've got to learn how to do it. Empress Anna Eid El, I can just name off some of the documentation that she wrote back in the day, and I was just like, this is so powerful. I have to learn how to do this. And, our ancestors, they do not wait 2 seconds from us asking them to show us something, that they rush in with the information, and that goes for all of us. When we say, hey, ancestral energies, I want to do this or I want to learn that. When you seek ye first the kingdom, because that's kingdom business, that's empire business right there. Writing writs and affidavits is empire business, And then knowing, too, for us, it was important that wide access be given to everything that we do, And I'm just glad they were there to provide the access, when we first woke up, because very powerful, very powerful. So I could go all day about how powerful they are. I'm just glad that they were here, divinely inspired indeed. So thank you for bringing them up, Empress. I appreciate it because it just gives us another opportunity to say thanks to them and to our Grand Sheik Taj Tariq Bey for all that he does and is doing. So, and all the other Moors, there are, we thank every Moor who's ever gotten on the public record and said, I'm a Moor, whether they were, we're just grateful to see fezzes and turbans and know that we are who we say we are.
Dr. Alim Bey is awesome. I listen to his videos all the time. He just give all the knowledge. He just give it all up.
That metaphysical knowledge is
yes.
It is amazing. Yeah, it is. It is. We could go on and on about the different Moors that are doing powerful work. But I'll stop there because then I'll get teary-eyed and no one comes to see my tears. But I'm just so grateful that they were all here. Because while we were deep in our sleep, they were, just on that, I think about the things they had to go through,
Someone in the chat mentioned C. Freeman L. Yeah, I listen to his videos all the time as well.
Yes, indeed. And Empress Queen Valahara.
Oh, yes. Yeah, awesome. And I'm just going to say one more thing. I've been noticing on some of the videos where there's an option to become a member, and like there's a block from being able to see certain videos if you don't have a membership or whatever. So I just wanted to mention and suggest to the Moors to start downloading any videos that you want to keep, if you don't have the sovereign credits or whatever right now, because I don't know who's going to start requiring a membership and who is not. So if there's any videos out there that you want to keep and, you're not ready to start being a member, to go ahead and download those videos as well.
Yeah. That's a good idea, Empress. That's a good idea. And I'm saying that's a good idea, but in my mind, all I'm thinking is we're going to have the resources to get all the things we need.
Okay, I'm great to hear that.
In my mind, I was thinking, we got this, but that is still a great idea, to download the videos and things before that platform does what it does. But even then, we have what we need to get. We're going to continue to have what we need, and that whole system. Moors, we got this. It is a wrap. It is a wrap indeed. So with that being said, we've been here 4 hours already, and that time went by so fast. So we're going to go ahead and adjourn here, and we will meet back again on Thursday at 7. Thank you, Morris, so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Empress. Islam Morris.
Islam.
When I walk,
Islam.
Grand Rising. Thank you so much, Morris.
Peace and love.
Thank you, Morris. Love you all. Islam.
Love more.
Islam.
Peace and love. Glad to see you.
Peace and love.
Islam.
peace and love, more Islam, Empress Light. Thank you so much. Thank you, do.
You're welcome, nobility. Thank you. You're welcome, nobility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me get off so she can get off.
We will go ahead and disconnect in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Islam.